Hello, Internet. I am Insane Lane. We are back with day 2 afternoon session of the Alec Baldwin trial in the Rust shooting. Defense and prosecution were extremely busy over their lunch hours. They came back and argued further motions. I caught most of it. There was some about being able to state that blanks can kill. There was some about calling Alec Baldwin a prosecutor. And there were some documents that were not redacted that should have been, and now it's too late, so they will be allowed in as is.
I believe since the day that the incident occurred. And of course, you see him here as a defendant in a courtroom wearing a suit jacket. He wasn't dressed like that on the scene, right?
Right.
He was Harlan Rust, and he had his actor costume on, right?
Yes.
And you actually took those clothes and tested them for blood, like you said before, right?
I did.
And he was shaking as you did that, was he not?
He seemed upset as I did that.
And of course, you remember that, right?
Yes.
And the lapel that you've reviewed has refreshed your memory.
Correct.
And
yes.
You know that he received a
so
phone
she did
call
watch
from
the
his
body cam
friend
vid
Joel,
over lunch.
the director who had been shot, and you used that information to then send officers to the hospital to retrieve the bullet.
I did
correct?
see she returned with not just her
deputies,
the white box that she's had, but she had like a
But
big
he told you that
brown
and
paper
told
wrapped
you that
something
would
on
be,
top of it as well.
something that he wanted you to do, right?
He indicated it was something he wanted law enforcement to do, but we were already making the necessary, we were already sending a deputy to the hospital to retrieve that.
And he told you that he pulled the gun out, he turned, and he just cocked the gun, right?
He did state that, yes.
He didn't say he pulled the trigger, right?
I don't recall him saying that.
And you never tested the hammer of that gun for DNA, did you?
I do not know
He was
the
wearing
FBI
gloves.
lab's process
What DNA?
for processing a firearm for DNA.
But because he told you that, and I'm putting up A10.
Am I wrong that he was wearing gloves? I thought he was.
That's why you knew that the document that had fallen near Miss Hutchins that says macro on hammer as thumb cocks it was so important. Isn't that right?
There was a paper inside of the church that indicated a firearm was being used. So I photographed it. We had paperwork that was later collected out of Miss Hutchins's side bag that was also additional script. And that was collected because it was part of her bag, part of her personal property.
And you see the name Helena on top, right?
Yes, this is what was taken out of her bag.
And what was at the floor, A3, Russ Colt cocked quietly now. Did I read that right?
Yes.
And you and your fellow officers discussed this and said, this is important. It confirms what he told us, didn't you?
I believe that.
Why is he being so hostile to her?
It was a script that involved a firearm inside the church where a shooting had occurred.
And
he was like borderline shouting at her.
Eventually, you all sent that firearm off. Not
like he's clearly decided he's going to make his case with DNA, this witness.
But rather,
why I don't know.
Being destroyed in the testing or broken in the testing, if you prefer.
The firearm was sent for DNA, and additional testing was not conducted until later. The firearm was sent.
We were talking also
for DNA.
To move away from the firearm for a second about how the lethal
just
round got
my sound.
Right?
Yes.
And Mr.
That's
Baldwin,
not me breathing into the mic. I don't know who that is.
That you would figure it out.
It's on the feed.
You gave him that assurance. You said, I get it. I know that there was a live round, wasn't supposed to be on set. We law enforcement are going to find that out, didn't you?
I believe the words that I used was, that's why we're here. We're here to try and figure out what happened.
And one of your fellow officers.
God, I bet you anything this woman never intended that she would be on the stand this long.
Effect on listener? What?
Or like not even 2 days, but she's been all day.
Respond.
it's not for the truth of the matter asserted, but that it was her.
Okay. Well, did you lay the foundation for that? Did you ask her what she did because of that?
Not yet, I can.
Okay.
And after
And I'm leaning back towards
Foundation
idiot.
for effect on listener.
after what you said and what you heard from your fellow officer, it is true, as you testified previously, that you did go out to seek the source of that lethal round, right?
Please rephrase your question as to the word seek.
Sure. After you said what you said and the officer said what he said, is it not the case that you made it a priority to try to find the source of the lethal ammunition, correct?
Our priority was to find the facts of what had happened in this situation.
And one of the steps that you took that we talked about by searching the truck, by going to Seth Kenny, by getting the PDQ, one of the things you then did was you did seek out and try to find the source of the lethal ammunition, correct?
Yes,
And as you were doing that, you continued to work with Corporal Hancock, right?
yes.
You would see her and the prosecutors often, right?
I would see Corporal Hancock more often.
And you testified previously about the search for the lethal ammunition at the trial of the armorer, correct?
Yes,
And a question came up at that trial of this issue of, did Seth Kenny really provide the ammunition to set or not, right?
yes, I believe that came up.
Okay. And eventually there was a verdict in that case, right?
Yes,
And a good Samaritan walked into the police station and gave you the lethal ammunition, didn't they?
after the Hannah Gutierrez trial, there was an individual that came to the police station and stated they had ammunition.
And they turned in the ammunition
Yes,
and they gave it to you, right?
yes,
And they told you that this was the ammunition that ended up with Seth Kenny that killed Miss Hutchins, right?
I do not recall all of their statements.
Who did you tell about that?
During that conversation, my Lieutenant Brian Brandel, was with me, and Detective Hancock was aware of that individual, that he had come to the sheriff's office.
And you never vouchered that and turned it over to the defense, did you?
It was a doc information situation,
I don't know what that means. Can you just explain it to me?
meaning that I was instructed by my lieutenant to create a doc info report on it.
And I mean, what does that mean?
Means we're documenting information that this individual came and gave this ammunition to us.
Okay, but you didn't, I mean, he told you it had to do with the Rush shooting, correct?
Yes,
And he told you actually that he was a police officer in a neighboring county, right?
I believe he said he was a retired police officer. Yes.
And he told you all had been duped by Seth Kenny, didn't he?
No,
In words and substance, didn't he?
I don't recall that. No.
Okay. And he said to you, I'm willing to fill out a witness statement, right?
No, I don't recall that.
He told you that the rounds came from a green ammo can, didn't he?
Okay, yeah. Do you have this
Sustained.
witness?
Did you take?
Okay, this is an
rounds
idiot trying to be a
that were
genius.
provided to you? By the way, they were
He's trying to pull a gotcha.
Starline brass nickel primer live.
He's trying to say, like, somebody came to you and
I
told
don't
you
recall.
You don't
Seth
recall?
Kenny supplied those rounds. I know
Really?
where they
That is what he
were.
said.
I know they were kept in this green ammo can that he's been talking about.
Well, it's information acted upon is going to be my response. But he told you the reason that he was coming in is because he didn't trust law enforcement on this case.
Well, you know what? She's going to object to hearsay, and you're going to say effect on listener?
Okay.
Well, you're going to have to lay your foundation better. You
Yeah.
are.
So, let me ask this question. How come law enforcement didn't voucher this with the rest of the evidence in the Rust case?
I'm not sure what you mean by the word voucher.
How come you didn't inventory it and put it with all the rest of the evidence in the Rust case?
I was instructed to put this in as a
He better have this
information
witness
case,
or he's the biggest
I did.
fool.
and it is under that case number.
You better-
Also,
No.
how is this not
There
There is
hearsay?
a supplemental report on it.
Because he's saying, didn't
and
mystery person
that
X
was placed into evidence.
come and tell you?
Did you ever turn that over to the defense?
I have not turned over anything to the defense. My information goes through the sheriff's office.
Are you aware of whether the sheriff's office ever informed the defense that a good Samaritan came in and turned in this ammunition?
I do not know.
When the defense came to view the Starline brass nickel primer live ammunition with you, you didn't show them this, did you?
I did not have an evidence viewing with the defense. That was my coworker.
Your coworker didn't show this to the defense, correct?
I do not know.
Do you have any reason to believe your coworker showed this to the defense, given that it wasn't put in the same inventory as the Rust case?
No.
Did you or anyone from the sheriff's office ever tell the armorer or her lawyers that a good Samaritan came in after the verdict and gave you this information?
I do not know.
After the verdict? As in after the Hannah Gutierrez Reed verdict? Is that what he's saying?
But
I'm
did you
having
agree-
trouble following him.
He did tell you that Seth said this was the evidence from the shooting, correct?
I don't recall what he stated, what someone else stated.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. How is this not hearsay?
And you told him
What's going on? They
you
fall
didn't
into
have to write a
bizarro
witness
world?
statement. Law enforcement was going to type up a report on it today, right?
I never stated any such thing about a witness statement.
Like, I really can't wait to watch a couple other
offered
people's
to
coverage
provide
of
a
this
written
exact
witness
moment
statement
tonight
for
and
that
see where they
Did you not?
landed.
I do not.
Because I am confused.
Did you give him assurances that you would type up a report on it?
I don't recall providing assurances to him.
He better have this
you
witness,
tell
and this
him
witness
that you
better
had
have
a report?
high
I
definition
don't recall doing
video
that either.
of
do not.
everything he's saying.
No.
So when you testified earlier that you never found the ammunition that killed Miss Hutchins, that wasn't true either, was it?
Can you rephrase the way you stated that?
He
Sure.
doesn't have to answer
As
it.
you sit here today, having had a good Samaritan turn in these 45 rounds into the precinct, right?
So, yes, apparently after
Yeah. You don't know whether or not you have.
the Gutierrez Reed verdict, he is
The live
claiming
rounds
somebody
that
walked
killed Miss
into the
Hutchins,
police
do you?
station and said, "These are the source of
The
the live
live round
rounds
that
from the
killed Miss
Rust set."
Hutchins has been fired. Are you asking me about a connection between those live rounds and other ones?
I'm asking you, as we've talked about at great length, whether or not you withdraw. I'm asking you, isn't it the case that law enforcement likely has the matching rounds to the ammunition that killed Miss Hutchins?
I do not know.
And you do not know because you made a doc report about this and did not put it with the rest of the Rust evidence, correct?
Those rounds were not placed with the rest of the Rust evidence.
He's
Correct.
accusing her of
Nor were they
withholding
sent
critical evidence.
To the FBI for testing. with the rust evidence, were they?
No, they were not.
I have no further questions for this witness at this time.
Redirect.
Yeah,
Ms. Poplar, are you a
prosecution, you
detective?
got some
No, I am
recovery to
not.
do.
Did you interview any of the witnesses in this case?
It's not going to be good
No, I
enough.
did not.
It's not going to be good enough to say that it's
You
not her
didn't interview
job.
Mr. Baldwin?
No,
You didn't interview Ms. Gutierrez?
no.
Uh,
Yeah, defense gets a
Mr.
genius
Spyro
point on that because
was
he called all the
asking
evidence
you
into question.
about
He made it
the
seem like they were
Good
withholding.
Samaritan who arrived at the sheriff's department after the Gutierrez trial. Can you tell the members of the jury when the Gutierrez trial was?
I don't recall exactly. I believe it was back in April.
Would you take end of February, beginning of March?
Yes, that sounds more accurate.
Okay. Do you recall the Good Samaritan's name?
I do not.
Would you recognize it if I said it to you?
Yes,
Troy Teskey.
yes, that was his name.
Are you aware that Troy Teskey is a close friend of Hannah Gutierrez Reed's father?
No, I did not know that.
Are you aware that Troy Teskey had his own motivations for wanting to place blame on Seth Kinney to help Hannah Gutierrez?
Objection, leading. Objection, irrelevant.
Overruled, overruled.
Please answer.
No, I had no knowledge of that.
Now, to be clear, is Mr. Baldwin charged with involuntary manslaughter for bringing live rounds on the movie set?
No.
Is Mr. Baldwin charged with involuntary manslaughter for loading a live round into the gun?
No,
Has a person already been tried and convicted for those things?
yes,
To try to clarify some points, Starline Brass, is that a brand of ammunition?
yes, it is.
Is it a brand of ammunition or a casing?
It is a casing.
Okay. And the live rounds from the set of rust had nickel primers, right?
Yes,
Objection, leading. Every question.
Overruled.
So let me ask you this. When you went to PDQ to conduct your search, because you're not the detective, do you remember whether he had any surveillance video or not?
I don't remember.
So with regard to Mr. Kinney,
I'd ask her whose job is it to make sure all the
prior
elements in a
to
warrant are
the
properly
search of
executed because I'm
PDQ,
guessing it's not
did
hers.
Mr. Kinney actually
So then if the
bring
defense wants to
his
harp about the
own
security
live
bid, they got to call
ammunition to
another
the police
witness and waste
station?
more of their time.
Yes,
So before you ever executed a search warrant, he went to the police station and said, I want to give you a sample of my live ammunition.
yes,
And you took that and you sent it to the FBI, right?
correct.
Now, with regard to ammunition, characteristics of some of this ammunition is it says Starline Brass on the top, right? And when I say it says Starline Brass, describe to the jurors what the emblem is that we see.
It is a star, an arching line, and then another star.
The live ammunition that was taken from PDQ, was it all Starline brass?
No,
Was it all nickel primers?
no,
Now, in addition to the stamp on the top of the casing and the color of the primer, does ammunition have different shaped projectiles?
yes.
And when we're talking about the projectile, we're talking about, what are we talking about?
We're talking about the nose of the bullet, so what actually gets projected out the barrel of the gun.
Hold on, please. Thank you, sir. I'm showing you what's been previously admitted at State's Exhibit 26. Remind us, which are the live rounds? The suspected live rounds, sorry, we'll get there.
The ones to the right.
Okay, curb your
What are
attitude.
the ones on the left?
You don't get to be
They are
pissed
dummy
off.
rounds.
Is there a different shape to the tip of the projectile?
Yes.
Tell us what the difference is.
So the live rounds.
Hey, stop crossing your arms, dude. You've been
Um,
told.
So the live rounds have a
Hi,
flattened surface to them.
Brisnickety. Yes, you can be pissed off all you
whereas
want. The prosecution
our
needs
dummy
to,
rounds
you know,
come to
slower
a further
roll.
point. Sorry, I was trying
But
to-
they've been
Almost like
sniping
a
at each other like
curvature
little
to a better
babies
point.
all day.
At my request, prior to the Gutierrez trial, did you take out a ruler and measure those?
Yes, I did.
Like this witness should have been off the stand like
Do you recall
in under an hour this
the
morning.
size of what
And
we call the
they are
meth
halfway
which
through
is
the
that very
afternoon
top of
and
the
they're still
projectile?
going.
Do you recall the size of the live rounds?
Yes, the live
Yeah,
rounds.
Alec Baldwin
were
does have
6
resting pissed
millimeters,
off
and
face.
The dummy rounds were 4 millimeters.
Every single live round, well, suspected live round, taken from the set of Rust, was in a
Oh, and
6
someone else did
millimeter
comment
metric.
that it is
Yes.
confirmed, yes, Stephen Baldwin is wearing a hearing assist device because apparently he's
All of
nearly
the live
completely deaf in
ammunition
his
that was
right
taken
ear.
from PDQ, to include the live ammunition that Seth Kinney brought into the sheriff's station. Did any of those have 6 millimeter metlets?
No.
Do you have any evidence that Seth Kinney is the source of the live rounds on Rust?
Did you look?
No.
If you know,
That was the defense's entire thing is they
is
went there, but they didn't really
evidence
look.
that Hannah
They didn't search
Gutierrez
every
brought the
box.
live
They didn't
rounds onto the set of
collect
Rust?
tools that they were supposed to
Yes.
collect. They didn't collect surveillance
What
video
is
that they were supposed
evidence?
to
Let's talk
collect.
about it.
You know, they
The
didn't
evidence
go through
that
every
I'm
box with
aware
every
of
round.
Is a photograph
And it was a month
on a
after the
cell
fact.
phone of the rounds in the background of a photograph that was taken with a cell phone. Those rounds are the same ones from the same box that were being pulled from that day that were handed to Lieutenant Benavides.
Let me see if I can find an exhibit to help us.
The prosecution really needs to tighten this up. Do not be grandstanding for the jury. The defense already did that. I'm sure they're sick of this witness. You know, they're probably very annoyed with both of you because you've been sniping all day and keeping them waiting all day with your endless sidebars.
Yes.
So you should have come in very technical, 3, maybe 4 questions, and get this witness off already.
To bringing that box on the set.
Yes.
And is it your understanding that Hannah Gutierrez actually provided evidence to the sheriff's department that she was provided that box by her father?
Yes.
Yeah, I have no idea
And the
why he's
Good
dead, but it would be
Samaritan
funny if
who
it had
came
happened
in
on set.
with the live rounds.
And worth noting,
was
that
telling
did
where
happen
Seth
to Bruce
Kenny's
Willis
dad
filming
died.
Die Hard.
That happened.
He
how
was
long after
firing
the
a
incident?
real gun. I think I
That
read he was hiding
happened
under a table or
well
something,
after
and the
the
gun was right
incident
here,
in
and it
after February,
destroyed up
so
about
March
80% of his hearing.
this year.
So Ms. Hutchins died in what year?
In October of 2021.
And Mr. Teskey, Hannah Gutierrez's father's good friend, the Good Samaritan, he decided to bring this ammunition in after her conviction?
Objection.
Is that right?
Objection assumes facts, not evidence, misleading.
He said
Well,
twice that it was after.
Unless you want to come up and tell me.
Yes, I do.
All right, come on up.
He said it was after the conviction. Why can't she say it? And again, somebody better call this witness. I mean, I understand now why they don't want to. The defense will want to. The prosecution will say, well, he's just a liar. Well, prosecution, it's up to your job to make him look like a liar then. Because I have a feeling this guy's going to get on the stand and try to throw everything on Seth Kenny. Because one of the crazy conspiracies, and God help us if it comes up in the courtroom, was that Seth Kenny was basically trying to get at Thel Reed somehow, that it was some kind of a business dispute.
Mr. Teskey, Hannah Gutierrez's father's good friend, the Good Samaritan, he decided to bring this ammunition in after her conviction.
I'm not
Is
surprised.
that right?
Go ahead and answer.
Yes.
Especially because Alan Rickman was British.
In your experience, if Seth Kenny wanted to hide the fact that he had live ammunition at PDQ,
He had plenty of time to do
he
that,
had
didn't
plenty
he?
of time to get rid of it, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you found some there, right?
Yes.
And the photograph, well, was all of the live ammunition in the same place?
Yes.
Where was it found?
It was in a box on the bottom of a stack labeled as live ammo.
And for completeness, was there live ammunition found in another room away from this box?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay. Did you find any ammunition that was not .45 caliber anywhere else at PDQ?
Actually, live ammo
believe
was
there
found
were
in the
2
bandolier
boxes
belt that
of
Jensen
marked
Eccles had.
38 caliber ammunition that were in another room.
Did Mr. Kenny tell you that his personal firearm's a .38?
No, I did not know that.
Okay. I'm going to show you what has been previously admitted as defendant's A23.
Oh, you missed it this morning when the defense referred to him as Jason Eccles.
Is this, so when we're talking about .45 caliber ammunition, well, let's back up. Is that the only caliber of live ammunition or suspected live ammunition found on the set of Rust?
Yes.
23, A23.
Yeah, this is the other thing that
So
they
if
couldn't
you
quite get
find
at in
38
the
live
other trial
ammunition,
was
is that
the
important to you?
movie 1883 had filmed using
'Cause
long
38
Colt
is not
45 dummies
Correct.
that were
So,
then
the
allegedly, I don't
45
know if they ever
caliber
actually proved
ammunition
this,
that you found at
reused,
PDQ,
reloaded and
Is
reused
this where
for
you
the
found
Rust
it?
set, but there had been
Yes.
live ammo on 1883 as well. And so that may have gotten mixed in with the
Any
dummies, and that's how it
mistaking
happened,
that
was
that
one
would be live
theory.
ammunition?
No,
Why?
it was clearly marked as live ammunition in that box.
And because he marked one box correctly, he must have marked every box correctly. That's not how that works. That's why the police should have taken the
And let me
4 or
ask
5
you,
days They go
Ms.
through
Baldwin.
every box and every round.
The
Takes what it takes.
ammunition that the Good Samaritan, Mr. Teskey, the close friend of Hannah Gutierrez's dad, when he
Supposedly
that
it was for
ammunition
training.
brought to you after her conviction, you still have it?
Yes.
You can bring it in here and you can show it to the jury, right?
Yes.
And they can see for themselves that it does not match the live ammunition from the set of Rust, correct?
Yes.
And that is obvious just when you look at it, is it not?
Yes.
Yeah, they should.
Do you know how many boxes of dummy ammunition were provided to the set of Rust by Seth Kinney?
If I recall correctly, just one.
Do you know how many boxes of dummy ammunition were provided to the set by Hannah Gutierrez?
No, I do not.
Okay, fair enough.
Do we think Hannah will be called as a witness? I don't believe they can actually compel her to testify. I mean, they could offer to let her out early. But
Now, you were asked some questions on
Yes.
cross-examination, and I think they were related to, let me get the exhibit just so that we know what we're talking about.
and I mean, Hannah
You
could
asked
make
some
quite the
questions
good
about
witness
the
for the defense
live
because she tried to throw
ammunition
several
in
other
the
people under the
other
bus too.
actor's
But
gun
she
belt. You
didn't
remember those questions
speak
on
in her own
cross?
defense. But now
And I
it's
think the actor
after the
was
fact.
Jensen Ackles.
Oh, here we go. See, she knows how to say it.
Do you know whether or not Jensen Ackles
See, she
checked
knows
his
it's
firearm
Jensen.
on the set of the movie?
Yes,
No,
because he
no.
said that he did.
Whether he did his own safety checks?
I do not know.
Okay, is she gonna play the clip? Because he said it in his police interview that he does. When he got handed the revolver, he pointed it at the ground and dry fired it 6 times to make absolutely certain that it was clear and that he is in the habit of doing that. And he has said he's had armors yell at him for doing that. They're saying it wears down the firing pin,
Briefly about
blah blah blah. They just don't like it. Well, he basically said, "Well, I'm gonna do it anyway because I need to know that this gun is not loaded." And we actually got a moment of survivor's guilt from him in that interview because he at first he says that he did that and that he is in the habit of doing that, then says he gets asked like, where was your gun, and he was like, well, we went for lunch, I handed mine in to either Hannah or Sarah, I went for lunch, I came back, and he started to doubt himself and started to say, I don't know if I checked it after lunch. Did I check my gun after lunch? Can't remember if I checked my gun after lunch. Can't remember if I checked it when they gave it back to me. And he's clearly going through survivor's guilt here, which he has spoken about and said that he is getting help for, or was getting help for. I don't know if it's still current, but which is good. Because again, he's in like the worst, almost not the worst. Obviously, somebody died, but
Where did those dummy rounds come
like,
from?
he both could have been the person shot,
Those
and he
were
could have been the one to
dummy
shoot
rounds
someone.
removed from the box with blue writing that stated dummy rounds.
And who do you know?
This
supplied
person
those
is a
rounds?
crime scene tech.
Second.
She is the same crime scene tech that we ended on yesterday. She has been on the stand all day.
And I think
Because
I
all
made a
they've done
mistake
is
on
argue
direct
all day.
examination. This is State's Exhibit 30. Is that what I
So
showed
she
you?
is a crime scene tech.
Yes, I believe so.
She
And-
collected the
So
bullets
those actually didn't
from
come
the
out of
set
box, did they?
and sent the gun and
Do you
some
know
of
where
the
they came from?
suspected live
They
rounds
came
to
from
the
a gun
FBI.
belt that was located inside of the prop truck.
Defendants A26. Is that where they came from?
Yes.
Based on the
However,
well,
defense asked
the
her
dummy
about everything
rounds
under the sun, including
in both
did
of
she
these
interview
pictures,
witnesses?
from the
No,
box
and then
and
spent
from
10
the gun
minutes
belt,
hearing the same
do
no.
they have distinctive characteristics?
Yes.
Like he kept asking her things that were wildly outside the purview of her job that
Have
she
they
had
been
nothing to
identified?
do with.
Who do you know who supplied all of the dummy rounds that were in the gun belt and in the box?
Yes, that was Seth Kenny.
All right.
Yeah. No, that was, they're both guilty of it. They're both guilty of it. The defense a lot more. But yeah, this woman has been asked more questions about things that she did not know, did not see, would not know than things relative to
You were
her actual
asked
job
some
today.
Questions about some documents that you photographed. Do you recall those questions?
Yes.
I'm trying to find them. Are council, are all of the exhibits still up here? Take that as a yes.
No, I have these, I have the script and shots.
Those are the exhibits? Does it say copy? Okay, can I use them? then?
Yes,
Okay, as long as they're the same.
that is it.
Okay, we'll just use your copies. This is Defendant's Exhibit A10. You remember being shown this?
Yes.
Do you have any idea when this exhibit, or I'm sorry, when scene 125 was being filmed?
No, I do not.
Same question
Yep.
for scene, is it 55 or 66?
Well,
I
the reason
apologize.
that they're asking
No.
about Jensen Ackles' safety habits with a gun is because part of Baldwin's
68.
argument or his defense is
No.
that no
115.
actor
No.
is
118.
expected to
No.
check the gun
121.
themselves. That's
No.
absolutely
130.
ludicrous.
No.
No actor
In fact,
does that. No actor would be expected to do it. No actor would be trained to do it.
if you know,
And so the fact that they can point
was
directly
Ms.
at Jensen
Hutchins
Ackles, who was on set
killed
and is
during the filming
known to
of
be
an
extremely
actual
proficient
scene?
with guns, having come up
No, she
20
was-
years of guns with
She was
Supernatural,
not. Is that right?
and being a
Correct.
certified trainer himself, for him to say, as an actor, I always check the gun myself. That's how I was trained. That's what I'm expected to do. That's what I do. Destroys Baldwin's
Same
defense
thing
that because he's
here
an
for
actor, he's
118
not
again.
responsible for checking the gun.
Ms. Hutchins wasn't
So
killed
Jensen Ackles
during the filming
has
of
to
a
be on the
scene, was
state
she?
on
No,
the witness
she's not.
list at some point. He has to be. I would think that he's almost the prosecution's star witness. They could argue, yeah,
Do you know?
I think that will be
do you
the
know who wrote
defense
the script?
No.
cross with him will be, yeah, you're
Do
the
you know who the
exception,
director of
not the
movie
rule.
was?
I believe that was Joel Sousa.
Oh yeah, they also
Do
had
you
her
know whether or
read
not he's going to come in
some
and
pages
testify?
from the
No, I do
script
not.
because it's in the
Did he
script that
testify in the
Baldwin
Gutierrez
cocks
trial?
the hammer as the
I
camera
believe he
zooms
did,
in.
yes.
So trying to say like he
Did
just
you
did what he was
interview the
told.
person who wrote the script?
No.
Did you interview any of the witnesses in the room at the
Didn't
time of
interview
shooting?
anybody. That's
No,
not
I
her
didn't.
job.
So you haven't talked to a single person who could tell you whether these defense
This is true.
A3 and A10 are relevant at all. Is that right?
Correct.
You were asked by Mr. Spyro whether or not it was true that live ammunition should never be on a movie set, and you said that was correct. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Yes.
You've never worked on a movie set before, have you?
No, I've not.
How do you know that?
It makes sense to me. Makes common sense.
But do you know?
Yes.
No, I do not know the rules of movie sets.
You're not aware that there are safety bulletins for the use of live ammunition on movie sets?
No,
No.
I do not know that.
All total, including prop truck, the entire scene out there at Bonanza Creek, how many real firearms were taken into evidence?
If I can look at my report.
Sure.
Yeah, this is true. This is not cut and dry by any means, and that's why I've said there are other people who should have been investigated. I don't think Baldwin should be sitting here alone. Oh yeah, she is. Yeah,
I believe 13. in total.
100% she is.
13 real firearms.
And she's been getting wound up all day. Like
Now,
the two of them, her and the cartoon guy,
you were asked some questions
they've
about
just been
Mr. Kenny
escalating the
being
sniping at
present
each other
at
and
the search of the
and the
prop
back and forth
truck.
all
Do you
day
recall that?
long.
Yes.
Do you remember why he was present?
I don't recall the details of why he was present.
Do you recall how the sheriff's department got access to the safe?
Yes, Seth Kenny provided us with the combination.
And the firearms that you recovered, real and fake,
Hello.
who did they belong to?
Somebody wants to say
Is my understanding
hi.
they belonged to Seth Kenny.
After he finished attacking me, he had to go
Would
take a
you
nap.
say that those firearms were
You know, he
many
he had to
thousands
do a
of
lot of
dollars in
barking
value?
while I was
Yes.
away.
And the
Yes.
do you know who provided the vast majority of the blank
You
ammunition?
protected the house, right? No.
Oh.
That I do not know.
Okay.
And the
Does
kitty?
it surprise you that the person who owns the
No,
guns
you told them to take the
had
kitty.
access to the safe?
No.
Yeah. Yes, whoop, whoop, whoop. That's not an encouragement.
Have you ever discovered any evidence that Seth Kenny was ever
You just like to
physically
stare at me,
present
don't you?
on the set of Rust, other than the day that he helped unlock the safe for your search?
No.
I need a snack so bad.
Do you recall you were asked some
need you to
questions
make me a
about you had information about a green ammo can?
Go make me a snack.
And that was one of the reasons that you executed the search warrant. You recall those questions?
Yes.
He says no.
Do you remember where you got the information about the green ammo can?
I do not.
Did you review any of the photographs from any of the cell phone extractions that were done in this case?
No.
Good boy.
Did you look at any of the text messages between the different witnesses in this case?
No.
Do you have any information that Hannah Gutierrez previously asked if she could have live ammunition on the movie set she was working on with Nicolas Cage?
I do not have that information.
Okay.
Imagine if they called Nick Cage.
Now, I understand we've got some photographs of PDQ and it looked like it was really packed full of stuff. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, you called it a warehouse. Can you explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury about how big that facility is?
No, baby.
It's a very small facility. It has an upfront office, a hallway that leads to a bathroom, and one small workshop room, and then a room towards the back.
Is it possible for you to estimate the square footage?
No, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Okay. It's a small building.
Yes.
Now, as a crime scene technician, are you trained to find pieces of evidence in difficult areas?
Yes.
Have you ever been in a person's home or apartment that kind of looked like a hoarder place?
Yes.
How many times do you think that's happened to you?
Several dozen.
several dozen.
At least, yes.
And you're trained to look for evidence in that kind of an environment.
Yes.
Is it your understanding that Mr. Kenny's business is a prop house?
Yes.
Would you expect a prop house to be full of props?
Yes.
Was the prop house indeed full of movie props?
Yes.
Did anyone live there?
I don't believe so, no.
Yes. She was part of the team that searched the Seth Kenny's PDQ offices. She
Do
was
you
one of
have
3.
any idea, based on the investigation that you did, whether or not Mr. Baldwin cocked the gun when he wasn't supposed to?
I do not have any information based on what I conducted. No.
Because you didn't interview any of those witnesses, right?
Correct.
You were asked some questions, or at least 1 or 2 questions about your pretrial interview with the defense attorneys. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Was Mr. Spiro even present at your pretrial interview?
I don't believe so, no.
Yes.
I'm almost done. Let me just review my notes.
I have 2 questions from the jury.
Okay.
Oh, we have questions from the jury.
If you know the investigation into the source of the live rounds, did that investigation continue after the case was turned over to the district attorney's office?
I do not know.
As a crime scene technician, in your experience, do revolvers go off by themselves?
Objection.
Yeah.
701, 702.
Withdrawn.
All right, thank you. That was sustained.
I want to just back up real quick. You were asked a question on cross-examination about
I pity the next witness.
specifically information that you had prior to putting in the request for the accidental discharge testing. You recall that question?
Yes.
And I think you testified that you didn't recall what information you received. Is that right?
Yes.
And then you were provided a document to refresh your memory. Do you recall that?
Yes.
May I approach?
Oh yeah, this poor woman, keep in mind, she got on the stand mid-afternoon yesterday. She's been up there all flipping day, and she's been sitting there for at least a collective, 90 minutes to 2 hours while they sidebarred about this and that. Oh my God. I really hope whoever this lady works for, please give her tomorrow off and let her take a long weekend. She's earned it.
Ms. Popple, have you had an opportunity to review that?
Yes.
How many pages is it?
It is 3 pages.
Does that document say anything about accidental discharge testing?
Objection.
That is that's a refresh of memory, so it doesn't have to.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to sustain his objection.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask this question and maybe let's see how it goes. Does it say anything about the gun being destroyed?
No. I'm sorry. No.
did that document refresh your memory as to what you understood from the FBI about what the condition of the gun would be after the testing?
Yes.
It does.
Does refresh my memory. Yes. I'm sorry. Can you
Whoa.
restate that?
Does that
Yeah.
document, the question you were asked on cross-examination was about the information
So,
that,
counsel,
okay.
I'm sorry to break you up, but let me give you these.
Oi. They're just, they've been absolutely agonizing over every word today. Like, they really have. They've been so nitpicky with each other. And I don't mean that in a dismissive way, but I mean they've literally been harping on every single word. They've been up at the bench like 8 times over the exact same point. You know, they spent about 40 minutes arguing over which pictures could be presented to this witness this morning. They spent an hour of a 2-hour lunch break arguing more motions, and defense left the door open for this. No, they didn't. Yes, they did. And again, the judge has got to be freaking livid because she very clearly told them to handle all of this, not only in the pretrial, but even yesterday as she was dismissing for the day. She told them, get your freaking exhibits together, basically saying, get your house in order, because she didn't want this.
Ms. Popple, was a fanny pack collected from the set of Rust?
Yes.
Do you know who the fanny pack belonged to?
Yes.
Who's that?
That was Hannah Gutierrez.
And was any of the live ammunition found in the fanny pack?
No.
So after Ms. Hutchins was shot, do you know whether or not the gun was unloaded by anyone on the set?
The information that was relayed to me was that the firearm was emptied by Hannah onto the cart.
Does that include the spent casing?
Yes.
And again, okay, based on their local time, they should have up to 2 hours left. That would take them to 5 o'clock. However, the judge did end early yesterday at about 4:30 local time. And given how extremely annoyed she has to be today, I could see us going for an early day. Oh. Though I did confirm this trial is only booked for 8 days. That's short. And both sides have consistently been worried about time, and they've wasted several hours today in arguments that should have
I just
happened
have one question.
before.
The Good Samaritan asked you.
So he's
in
calling him
reference
Good
to the ammunition you
Samaritan. The
provided,
prosecution called out who it actually
question,
was.
And that's the one that killed Helena. And you said yes, correct?
I don't recall that.
Did you deny it?
I don't deny it.
No further questions.
All right, we're going to take our afternoon bathroom break. Please don't talk among
figured,
yourselves or
yep.
anyone else about the evidence received here in court, and let's try to get back in around 3:20. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so there we have it. We're taking an afternoon break. The judge is probably going to get a mega pint of coffee and several Snickers bars.
On the bench conference, but we're in recess for all intents and purposes for bathroom break for the rest of you.
Okay, so looks like they are still going to be arguing stuff while we are on a break. Because, of course. Okay, so since I desperately need a refill on my water, I am also going to take 10 minutes. I will be right back with you for the rest of the afternoon. We are done finally with the crime scene tech. I'm sure she could not be happier to be off the stand and out of there. I bet you she's already out of the building. I would be. So we'll be back in about 10 to 15 minutes. They're not going to be back on time. We'll be good. And we'll see who the next witness is. They don't have a lot of time left, so hopefully it's something they can keep short. But we shall see. Get some water, love a fur baby, back in 10-15.
Facepalm is not a facial expression. Just we're just gonna come on.
All right, I don't think this is of much consequence. I think that the part I ruled on earlier went to,
On again. Let's roll.
Good afternoon.
There we go.
You had seen when you were testifying earlier, Mr. Baldwin in court today, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And this is the first time that you've seen him since, I believe, since the day that the incident occurred?
Correct.
And of course, you see him here as a defendant in a courtroom wearing a suit jacket. He wasn't dressed like that on the scene, right?
Right.
He was Harlan Rust, and he had his actor costume on, right?
Yes,
And you actually took those clothes and touched them for blood, like you said before, right?
I did.
And he was shaking as you did that, was he not?
He seemed upset as I did that.
And of course, you remember that, right?
Yes.
And the lapel that you reviewed has refreshed your
You
memory.
remember that.
Correct.
And you know that he received a phone call from his friend Joel, the director who had been shot, and you used that information to then send officers to the hospital to retrieve the bullet, correct?
I believe we already had deputies at the hospital at the time.
But he told you that and told you that would be something that he wanted you to do, right?
He indicated it was something he wanted law enforcement to do, but we were already making the necessary.
We were already doing it.
I'm sorry. We were already sending a deputy to the hospital.
hospital to retrieve that.
And Baldwin was telling us the freaking obvious, like, hey, you should get the evidence. And they're like, cool, thanks, Chips. Never would have occurred to us to like look at evidence in a trial.
He told you that he pulled the gun out, he turned, and he just cocked the gun, right?
He did state that, yes.
He didn't say he pulled the trigger, right?
I don't recall him saying that.
And you never tested the hammer of that gun for DNA, did you?
I do not know the FBI lab's process for processing a firearm for DNA.
But because he told you that, and I'm putting up A10, defense exhibit, that's why you knew that the document that had fallen near Ms. Hutchins that says macro on hammer as thumb cocks it was so important. Isn't that right?
There was a paper inside of the church that indicated a firearm was being used, so I photographed it. We had paperwork that was later collected out of Ms. Hutchins's side bag that was also additional script. And that was collected because it was part of her bag, part of her personal property.
And you see the name Alina on top, right?
Yes, this is what was taken out of her bag.
And what was at the floor? A3, Russ Colt cocked quietly now. Did I read that right?
Yes,
And you and your fellow officers discussed this and said, this is important. It confirms what he told us, didn't you?
I believe that I stated it was important because it was a script that involved a firearm inside the church where a shooting had occurred.
She's looking to the
And
jury for help.
After this point in time, eventually, you all sent that firearm off, not to have the firearm tested, its hammer for DNA, but rather for it to end up being destroyed and tested, or broken and tested, if you prefer.
The firearm was sent for DNA and additional testing was not conducted until later.
We were talking also, to move away from the firearm for a second, about how the lethal round got set, right?
Yes,
And Mr. Baldwin, you actually told him that you would figure it out. You gave him that assurance. You said, I get it. I know that there was a live round wasn't supposed to be on set. We law enforcement are going to find that out, didn't you?
I believe the words that I used was, that's why we're here. We're here to try and figure out what happened.
And one of your fellow officers sort of came over the top of you and sort of confirmed to him, don't worry, we're going to find out.
Second listener, what? One word, but objection. Yes, what is it?
Objection, hearsay, the officer isn't here. Who's speaking up?
Respond.
It's not for the truth of the matter, sir. That is her.
Well, did you lay the foundation for that? Did you ask her what she did because of that?
Not yet, I can't.
Okay.
And after
Foundation for effect on listener.
after what you said and what you heard from your fellow officer, it is true, as you testified previously, that you did go out to seek the source of that lethal round, right?
Please rephrase your question as to the word seek.
Sure.
I said
After
the word
you said what you
seek.
said and the officer said what he said, is it not the case that you made it a priority to try to find the source of the lethal ammunition, correct?
Our priority was to find the facts of what had happened in the situation.
And one of the steps that you took that we talked about by searching the truck, by going to Seth Kenny, by getting the PDQ, one of the things you then did was you did seek out and try to find the source of the lethal ammunition, correct?
Yes,
And as you were doing that, you continued to work with Corporal Hancock, right?
yes.
You would see her in the prosecutor's office, right?
I would see Corporal Hancock more often.
And you testified previously about the search for the lethal ammunition at the trial of the armorer, correct?
Yes,
And a question came up at that trial of this issue of, did Seth Kenny really provide the ammunition to set her up, right?
yes, I believe that came up.
Okay. And eventually there was a verdict in that case, right?
Yes.
And a good Samaritan walked into the police station and gave you the lethal ammunition, didn't they?
After the Hannah Gutierrez trial, there was an individual that came to the police station
That was a
and said
thing
that
to
they had
introduce.
ammunition.
And they turned in the ammunition.
Yes,
They gave it to you, right?
yes.
And they told you that this was the ammunition that ended up with Seth Kenny that killed Miss Hutchins, right?
I do not recall all of their statements.
Who did you tell about that?
During that conversation, my Lieutenant Brian Brandel, was with me, and Detective Hancock was aware of that individual, that he had come to the sheriff's office.
And you never vouched your dad and turned it over to the defense, did you?
It was a doc information situation,
I don't know what that means. Can you just explain it to me?
meaning that I was instructed by my lieutenant to create a doc info report on it.
And I mean, what does that mean?
We were documenting information that this individual came and gave this ammunition to us.
Okay, but you didn't. I mean, he told you how to do it with the Rush shooting, correct?
Yes,
And he told you actually that he was a police officer in a neighboring county, right?
I believe he said he was a retired police officer. Yes.
And he told you you all had been duped by Seth Kennedy, didn't he?
No.
In words and substance, didn't he?
I don't recall that. No,
Okay. And he said to you, I'm willing to fill out a witness statement, right?
no, I don't recall that.
He told you that the rounds came from a green ammo can, didn't he?
Sustained.
Did you take the rounds that were provided to you? By the way, they were
He's trying to get to the green
Starline
ammo
brass
can.
nickel primer live, weren't they?
I don't recall.
You don't recall?
That is what I said.
So he just put those X's on the board, but there was no basis for his X's.
It's information.
He just put those X's on the board without any basis. I might have objected to that.
This was going to be my response, but he told you the reason that he was coming in is because he didn't trust law enforcement on this case.
Well, you know what? She's going to object to hearsay, and you're going to say effect on listener.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to have to lay your foundation better. You
Yeah.
are.
So now let me ask this question: How come law enforcement didn't voucher this with the rest of the evidence in the Rust case?
I'm not sure what you mean by the word voucher.
How come you didn't inventory it and put it with all the rest of the evidence in the Rust case?
I was instructed to put this in as a doc information case, which I did, and is under that case number.
You buried it.
No.
Your lieutenant.
There is a supplemental report on it, and that was placed into evidence.
Did you ever turn that over to the defense?
I have not turned over anything to the defense. My information goes through the sheriff's office.
Are you aware of whether the sheriff's office ever informed the defense that the Good Samaritan came in and turned in his ammunition?
I do not know.
When the defense came to view the Starline brass nickel primer live ammunition with you, you didn't show them this, did you?
I did not have an evidence dealing with the defense. That was my coworker.
Your coworker didn't show this to the defense, correct?
How would she know what her
Do you have any
coworker?
reason to believe your coworkers have showed this to the defense, given that it wasn't put in the same inventory as the Rust case?
No.
Did you or anyone from the sheriff's office ever tell the armorer or her lawyers that a Good Samaritan came in after the verdict and gave you this information?
I do not know.
This is interesting. Somebody came in after the verdict with this info.
But you do agree,
Wow.
he did tell you that Seth said this was the evidence from the shooting, correct?
I don't recall what he stated, but someone else stated.
And you told him he didn't have to write a witness statement. Law enforcement was going to type up a report on it today, right?
I never stated any such thing about a witness statement.
He offered to provide a written witness statement so that it was clear. Did he not?
I do not recall that happening.
Did you give him assurances that you would type up a report on it?
I don't recall providing assurances to him.
Did you tell him that you would write up a report on it?
I don't recall doing that either.
You did not?
No.
So when you testified earlier that you never found the ammunition that killed Ms. Hutchins, that wasn't true either, was it?
Can you rephrase the way you stated that?
Sure. As you sit here today, having had a Good Samaritan turn in these 45 rounds into the precinct, right?
If that's what you're discussing then.
You don't know whether or not you have in your possession the live rounds that killed Ms. Hutchins, do you?
The live round that killed Miss Hutchins has been fired. Are you asking me about a connection between those live rounds and other ones?
I'm asking you, as we talked about every night, whether or not you withdraw. I'm asking you, isn't it the case that law enforcement likely has the matching rounds to the ammunition that killed Ms. Hutchins?
I do not know.
And you do not know because you made a doc report about this and did not put it with the rest of the Rust evidence, correct?
Those rounds were not placed with the rest of the evidence, correct?
Nor were they sent to the FBI for testing with the Rust evidence, were they?
No, they were not.
I have no further questions. This was-
redirect.
Ms. Poplar, are you a detective?
No, I'm not.
Did you interview any of the witnesses in this case?
No, I did not.
This is interesting.
You didn't interview Mr. Baldwin?
No.
You didn't interview Ms. Gutierrez?
No.
Mr. Spyro was asking you about the Good Samaritan who arrived at the sheriff's department after the Gutierrez trial. Can you tell the members of the jury when the Gutierrez trial was?
I don't recall exactly. I believe it was back in April.
Would you take into February, beginning of March?
Yes, that sounds accurate.
Okay. Do you recall the Good Samaritan's name?
I do not.
Would you recognize it if I said it to you?
Yes.
Troy Teskey.
Yes, that was his name.
Are you aware that
Who's
Troy
this guy?
Teskey is a close friend of Hannah Gutierrez Reed's father?
No, I did not know that.
Are you aware
That was kind of testifying there. That was a little bit of testimony, just a wee bit.
that Troy Teskey had his own motivations for wanting to place blame on Seth Kinney to help Hannah Gutierrez?
Objection, leading, objection, irrelevant.
Overruled, overruled.
Please answer.
No, I had no knowledge of that.
Baldwin charged with involuntary manslaughter for bringing live rounds on the movie set?
No.
Is Mr.
That was an excellent question, by the way, because this is what the defense has been chasing all day, and that is pointing out that it's kind of smoke and mirrors.
Baldwin charged with involuntary manslaughter for loading a live round into the gun?
No.
Has a person already been tried and convicted for those things?
Yes.
To try to clarify some points, Starline Brass, is that a brand of ammunition?
Yes, it is.
Is it a brand of ammunition or a casing?
It is a casing.
And the live rounds from the set of rust had nickel primers, right?
Yes.
Objection be to your question.
Overruled.
So let me ask you this. When you went to EDQ to conduct your search, because you're not the detective, do you remember whether you had any surveillance video or not?
I don't remember.
So with regard to Mr. Kinney, prior to the search of PDQ, did Mr. Kinney actually bring his own live ammunition to the police station?
Yes.
So before you ever executed a search warrant, he went to the police station and said, I want to give you a sample of my live ammunition.
Yes.
And you took that and you sent it to the FBI, right?
Correct.
Now, with regard to ammunition, characteristics of some of this ammunition is, it says Starline Brass on the top, right? And when I say it says Starline Brass, describe to the jurors what the emblem is that you see.
It is a star, an arching line, and then another star.
Hence
The live
star
ammunition
line,
that's
right?
taken from PDQ, was it all Starline Brass?
No.
Was it all nickel primers?
No.
Now, in addition to the stamp on the top of the casing and the color of the primer, does ammunition have different shaped projectiles?
Yes.
And when we're talking about the projectile, we're talking about, what are we talking about?
We're talking about the nose of the bullet, so what actually gets projected out the barrel of the gun.
Hold on, please.
So let's talk a little bit about why there would be different shapes of reasons why they, is that they want to achieve aerodynamics, right? But they also might have, for instance, a hollow point at the end. And everyone sort of knows about hollow point ammunition, which is designed to expand and cause more damage to a target, typically used for hunting. But you also get things like wad cutter ammunition, which has a sort of flatter end of it. And that is used for target shooting because it makes a nice clean hole. So that's used for,
I'm showing you what's been previously admitted at State's Exhibit 26. Remind us. Make sure I have the proper exhibit numbers in the record. No, if you do you know who wrote the script?
No, I do not.
Do you know who the director of the movie was?
I believe that was Joel Souza.
For the accidental discharge testing, you recall that question?
Yes.
And I think you testified that you didn't recall what information you received. Does that include the spent casing?
Yes.
are they, another sidebar. Okay. What do we got here?
I'll pass the witness.
Back the witness goes.
I just have one question. The Good Samaritan asked you, in reference to the ammunition he provided, a question, and that's the one that killed Helena. And you said yes, correct?
I don't recall that.
You denied it.
I don't deny.
No further questions.
Sir, that was 2 questions.
All right, we're going to take our afternoon bathroom break. Please don't talk among yourselves or anyone else about the evidence received here in court. And let's try to get back in around 3:20. Okay, thank you.
And now we're going to do a magic trick. Wave a wand and boom. We got Baldwin back on the screen here because we were behind, so we can zoom. That Mickey for the Pro Bono Fund, enjoying the commentary. Thank you so much. Olin, they may let him off the hook. Doreen McMahon, thank you so much for the membership. Why doesn't you keep your glass?
The testimony you'll give in this case will be
basically high-tech technology.
Yeah, we use CNC machine for control
Okay,
of
we are
robotic
back.
systems.
That cut
It's
in
not just by
quickly.
hand, but also use the modern technology.
So I missed who this guy was. I'm gonna back up 2
Good afternoon.
seconds.
My name is Alessandro Pietta. I come from Italy.
Oh,
I'm
this
a
is the
gun
gun
manufacturer.
manufacturer.
Actually, the guy that made the gun that been used in the movie.
Thank you.
Sorry.
You have to answer her.
Oh, sorry.
I appreciate all the
Sorry about that.
information, but I have to ask you a question and then you answer the question.
Sorry.
All right, so you told us you're a gun manufacturer, is
Yes,
that
I
right? And what company do you own?
It's named Fab Fratelli Pietta.
Okay. And do you manufacture Pieta firearms?
Yes, that's the name of the company in English.
How long have you been manufacturing firearms?
The company has been founded in 1963 from our dad, and my brother and myself are running the company since 2000.
I know there are a couple of
And are
people
you
reviewing
familiar
this who
with
are going to
how
be
Pieta
going nuts
firearms
over
are
this guy.
actually made?
To
Yes, of course.
to gun guys
how are
and
you
people who
familiar?
like guns, this guy
I've
is a
been
rock
working
star.
in the company since 1995, and I've been taught by my dad how to produce a gun, and assist my brother producing, studying engineering in demo.
Does Pieta Firearms have quality control measures and inspections of their firearms?
Yes, we do.
And what are those?
We start from raw material, and then we check all the machining part, and then we got our quality control on the assembly department, and of course, before shipping the gun to the customer. So we got several steps in our procedure line.
And does Pieta Firearms use
I'm going to say
well,
right
what
now,
kind
if
of
I'm the defense, I have one
manufacturing,
question for this
technology
witness.
does
To
Pieta
the best of your
Firearms use?
knowledge,
Well,
or
we've been involved a lot
no,
in
I
the
phrase it differently. I would say,
Industrial 4.0, that
um,
mean that we are using
after the gun
most
left your factory,
actual
you would have no way of knowing
manufacturing
if it was ever
technology that we
modified,
have.
would you?
So you're
Answer no.
basically
No more questions.
high-tech
Yeah,
technology.
we use CNC machine, full control of robotic
Because the only thing
system,
this guy can
not
testify
just
to
by
is
hand,
what
but
condition the
also
gun was
using
in when it left
modern
his factory.
technology.
Okay.
It was in perfect, full working condition. And then it left.
So, excuse me, what does Pieta Firearms do to ensure that a gun that leaves Pieta Firearms doesn't have any defects? And Mr. Pieta, if I can just have you pull the microphone a little closer and
I mean,
then
is the
speak a
defense
little
actually planning to
slower.
Okay.
say the
Can
gun
you hear
was
me?
Yes.
like outright
And if you could just
defective
speak a little
defective? Because
slower.
I thought they
Sure.
were going with it was
We do have
modified
our quality
after the
control
fact, intentionally
operation, but
modified.
being an Italian manufacturer, by law, we had to send the gun to a national proof house. It's not a private company, but it's a public company. And all the guns that we produce, all the guns that are imported or made in Italy, need to be tested by this proof house. They have their own standard quality controls, and they also give us a certificate, and they stamp on the gun their marks. So there are different systems that we use to check the guns.
What is a proof house?
A proof house is a public company that shoot the gun, test the gun, take certain dimension. We have CIP homologations that is different from the American. It's called SANI, but they're very similar in the concept. We have certain dimension and DB check in order to be sure that the gun works properly. They also shoot the gun higher pressure, so they know that the gun will not blow up during our regular training section. And of course, they check all the safeties on the guns.
So before the gun leaves your company, Pieta Firearms, do you guys do checks of the guns first?
We do our own final check for quality reports. That mean that we also looking for aesthetical defects, and of course we do our own quality on the trigger pull, on the action, to be sure that everything in proper situation.
And so in addition to that, then it goes to the proof house and they do their checks as well?
The proof house check the gun as a piece of steel, if you pass that name. I check the gun for the customer because they want to get a nice gun, so without any scratches or without any cosmetical defects.
Does that also involve checking the internal parts of the gun to make sure that there are no defects?
That's done before by our quality control office, and we do that in the company.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as States Exhibit 50.
No objection.
Your Honor, being that there is no objection, I would move into evidence States Exhibit 50 and ask to have it published. On the screen in front of you, Mr. Pieta, is States Exhibit 50. Do you recognize that?
Yeah,
What
it's
is
one
it?
of our single action revolver. Probably, actually, it's written 45 long Colt. That's the caliber, 7.5 barrel length.
Are you familiar with this particular gun?
I know this gun because I know that gun has been produced for a trade show called SHOT Show, and has been shipped to Vegas in particular for that show.
Were you involved in the manufacture of this particular gun?
I was personally involved producing this sample for that trade show.
And do you recall when this gun was manufactured?
I guess 2016 or 2017.
How do you manufacture this particular firearm?
Well, I would not say manufacturer. I could say I prepare this gun because being a replica, we need to make our customer happy. And of course, our main customers are collectors. So when we prepare a new sample or a new model, we study the books. So we study the American history and we look for details just to make a new model. That's why I've been involved to introduce this gun during this trade show.
So you said this was a single action revolver.
This is a single action type revolver. It means that every time you want to shoot, you need to pull the hammer, cock the hammer, and pull the trigger.
Is that what a single action means?
Yes,
So you have to cock the hammer before you pull the trigger?
yes.
Okay. Is this different from other Pieta single action revolvers?
It's different on outside because the details are different. We are not used to make any marks on the grip, or we are not used to write the caliber on the trigger guard. But this is basically is the same gun with a different configuration.
So are the internal components of this gun the same as for others,
Yes, correct.
Pieta?
Correct.
Are the internal components of this particular gun, are they interchangeable with other Pieta single action revolvers?
Yes, they do.
Now, is the hammer to this Exhibit 50 that we see in front of us, is that different from other Pieta revolver hammers?
As the sides of the hammer and being polished just to create a different color.
But is it similar in as far as specifications?
It's the same.
It's the same to other firearms? I'm going to show you what's been admitted into evidence as State's Exhibit 6. If I can have the deputy bring it up and ask you to put on some gloves
Sure.
so you
I
can,
have. Go. No, I don't.
he has them.
Oh,
right.
good. Thank you. Sure.
At least I remembered to give this person gloves before letting them touch the
If you
evidence.
can open the box, Mr. Pieta. Do you recognize what's in there?
Yeah, it seems to be the same gun that's on the screen.
And I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 51.
No objection.
I move into evidence 51, Your Honor, with no objection. Now, if you can take a look at that firearm, Exhibit 6 that's in front of you, does it have a serial number?
Yes, it is.
And I'm going to put on the screen State's Exhibit 51. Do you recognize that?
Yeah, that's our invoice that probably has been used to ship the gun to EMF.
Does this invoice contain or list this particular gun that's in front of you, Exhibit 6?
Can I check the serial number?
Yes, please.
Can I touch the gun?
Yes,
Is it
with
good?
your gloves.
Okay. Yeah, it's the same serial number.
So.
Good
did
for him for
Pieta
checking.
Firearms then ship this gun, Exhibit 6, per this invoice?
Yes, we did.
And when, and to whom was it shipped?
Has been shipped to EMF company. That is one of our customer that show with us during SHOT Show. So to get the gun inside United States, we need to get someone can get all the license to import the gun for us. That's why this sample has been shipped to EMF.
What kind of a company is EMF?
EMF is an importing company, and they sell to distributor, dealers, and to individuals.
Is EMF associated with Pieta Firearms?
Yes, it is.
How?
We, Alberto and myself, own EMF.
So you own EMF?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And so when did you ship this particular firearm that's in front of you to EMF?
It's written on invoice at the 27 November 2017.
So that's when it left Italy to go to EMF?
Yeah.
Okay. Now let me go back to ask you a question about this hammer. You had said that it's nickel plated because this was for a particular.
No,
this is,
it's not nickel plated, it's just polished.
oh, polished. I'm sorry. Does that change its functionality?
No.
Okay. Did this particular gun go to the proof house?
Absolutely.
And was it approved by the proof house?
Yes, it is.
And how can you tell?
Well, there are some marks on the frame. And it's clearly on the top of the serial number. So you can see them. There's also another proof mark on the cylinder. So they're easy to understand that this gun has been approved by the proof house.
And what does that mean to you as a gun manufacturer that's been approved by the proof house?
That we have produced a good gun, follow the CIP regulation, and the gun can be sold to anyone. Without that marks, we cannot sell or produce.
Yeah, it is
to
a prosecution witness.
Now, once it comes to the United States, do you know if your guns or these guns that you import are also subjected to testing by American agencies?
No, actually, all the guns that want to be imported in United States need to be approved by ATF first. So when we start producing,
You think when
the
this
single
guy
action revolver,
was training to
we
be a
send
gun
a sample
manufacturer,
of
he
the
ever
sample
envisioned
to
himself
ATF
testifying
agents, and they
in an
approve the gun for us.
American celebrity
Do you know
manslaughter
what,
trial?
ATF does in
Yeah.
order to approve the guns?
Mostly they have
Like, this
scale
is gonna
them
be a
with
story for his
details,
grandkids.
So they need to check if our guns, actually a gun, match their requests. And also they got they call drop test that is used to see if the gun is safe enough to avoid any kind of malfunction.
You said a drop test. What do
Yeah.
you understand that to be?
Drop test means that the gun has to be approved. They have a safety, and in this particular gun, the safety is on the cylinder, and they put the safety on. They put a primer, not a light brown, of course, a dummy. They put the hammer in the first notch, so the firing pin is lined with the primer, and they take a weight, let it drop at 8 or 4 feet, something like that, 5 times. And the gun, the system should not shoot. If that is okay, they approve the gun.
And so does your Pieta firearm revolvers get put through that test by ATF?
Absolutely.
And that's to test to make sure it doesn't fire on its own?
No, that test means that we have safety on the gun.
Are you familiar with how this particular gun fires?
What that mean?
Well, what does it take to
You need to
make it
you
shoot?
need to cock the hammer and pull the trigger.
Do you know this gun that you have in front of you will fire without a pull of the trigger?
Actually, this gun cannot fire because from what I see is missing some parts. So,
Okay, I'm talking about when it was first
oh, sure, of
manufactured.
course.
Does it fire? Would it fire without a pull of the trigger?
No.
Why not?
Because the mechanic, the design of the hammer and the trigger has been designed since Samuel Colt made this gun to work in that way.
And can you explain under what
Yeah,
circumstances?
I really
would
don't
they
know.
Only fire.
Well, when you cock the hammer,
I
the
mean, this is
trigger will
the guy who
engage
made the
firing lock
gun.
Position. That is the
He made it
fire
as a
once to the lock
replica.
position of the hammer,
It
And if
was
you want to
proofed, it was
release the hammer,
tested, it
you
was
need
in
to pull
perfect
the
working
trigger.
condition
The
when it
trigger
left the
is just a
factory.
sear that lock the hammer in that position. And if you want to do that, you need to pull the trigger.
Okay. Now, is there also
This is
a
what he's here to say.
manufacturer's,
That gun does not fire without the trigger being pulled.
warning about whether or not the firing pin
However,
should
he can't
be
say if it
on
was
a-
modified or
sitting on
damaged
a
after it left the
timer?
factory.
Well, actually, it's not just a
Which,
manufacturer. It's a
for me, kinda
standard
nullifies
rule
his
in shooting
testimony.
when you carry your gun, in this particular gun, to load just only 5 ammo and not 6.
Why is that?
For safety reason. So you will know that you will not, if eventually the gun fall down, nothing happens.
What could happen if the gun falls down and the primer's?
Most of the time, nothing, because the armor is against the frame, and so if you hit the round, the primer will not shoot the primer. So it's just a safety rule that has been taught to every kind of shooter. So I've been a shooter for myself, and that's what they told me to do. So load 5 rounds on the cylinder instead of 6.
And will it fire? Let's say you load 6.
Mm-hmm.
And what could happen if you load 6?
Nothing really, just need to know that you load 6 rounds instead of 5.
Okay, but if you have the firing pin on the 6th
Mhm.
round?
If the firing pin is in the rest position when the hammer is down the frame, so the firing pin is not against the primer, nothing happens, because if you want to shoot the primer, you need to apply a certain quantity of force to shoot it. So you can get a thick touch on the primer, but the gun will not shoot.
If the firing pin is actually on the primer?
Close to.
Okay, but you had said that if the firing pin is on the primer and you drop the
Thanks for
gun,
letting us
what could
know.
happen?
Usually, it's based on the primer technology. The powder in the primer is not at the top of the primer, it's just a little in the middle. So you need to press it a little more. And when you reach that point, you can shoot the
Yeah, this
the
guy
load
is here
under
to
the
say,
firing pin.
I manufacture these
So
guns
what I'm
for a
hearing you
living.
say, it sounds like the
I
only
am an
way you
expert.
can fire this gun is by pulling the trigger?
That's the way that
If you
should be
do
done.
not pull the trigger, this gun does
Is
not
there
fire.
another way to
No.
fire this gun?
No.
That's why he's here. That's why they flew this guy from Italy, because he is a world-renowned expert. He literally made the gun, and he says it will not fire without the trigger being pulled.
Let me ask you, what
And yes, we
condition was
dropped
this
it,
gun
we
in when you
did all
shipped it,
kinds
when
of things
PSF
to make
shipped it
sure.
to EMF?
As I said before, this gun has been produced for a trade show. So we ship the gun without the firing pin. That is mandatory for this trade show, that all the guns are safe. And doing that,
Yes,
there are inspectors that check all the guns for us and put a tag.
But you could
So
also
the
attack
consumer,
this.
the customers, will know that they cannot use the gun.
So
to
you
shoot
shipped it with
themselves.
no firing pin, meaning a firing pin
not
was
having
put
a
in later.
firing pin in that gun
Who put it
while
in, and how do you know it was
used
done
in trade shows,
correctly?
Does that alter it or change it in any way?
Well, you are missing one part. That's it.
But does it change any internal components of it?
No.
Now, did Pieta Firearms own EMF while, during the time EMF owned this gun?
Like, are they
Yeah.
planning to call the person that
To
put a
your
firing
knowledge,
pin in the
did,
gun
EMF do anything to this gun?
No.
and have them swear they did it correctly?
May I have a moment? Your
Oh,
Honor?
thank you, Deadpool. You're very sweet. This is my Ribber Tam dress, which I am wearing today for the simple reason of it's clean. And I had to get a picture taken, so I figured, it's not a bad photo dress.
Just a couple more questions, Mr. Pieta. When Pieta Firearms shipped this to the United States to EMF, did it send the firing pins with it?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Really. Sorry.
How hard
you
is it to
usually
install a
send
firing
The
pin?
firing
Pretty
pin?
easy. It's just a pin and that's it.
Thank you, sir. I have no further questions, but the
Sure.
other lawyers will.
Thank you.
Yeah, but yeah, because they're gonna say, "Do you know who put a firing pin in the gun?" Do you know that it was done correctly? Do you know that no other part was ever modified after it left your factory in
afternoon,
Italy
Mr.
and
Pietro.
arrived in America?
Just have a couple of questions for you. We'll be out of here quickly. We heard you say that you
And also, he didn't
personally
directly
made
sell
this
it
gun, is
to
that
Seth
right?
Kenny, so it's gone through
And
multiple
it was shipped
companies.
from your company, Pieta, in 2017.
Yeah, that's what is written on the invoice.
Between 2017 and October 21, 2021.
And this is the first
you
time
don't
we're hearing from
know
this guy.
how this gun was handled
See,
by
there
any
it is.
particular individuals. Is that
No.
correct?
There it
I
is.
have no idea.
Your knowledge of the gun's functionality
Yes.
was limited to November of 2017.
See, that's why
when it
this
was
guy
shipped from
is-
your company. Is that fair?
That's not correct because my knowledge about this gun was also during this trade show that's been held in January. So probably the last time I saw the gun was in January.
So roughly beginning of 2018. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so for
you don't
3
know
years, you have
what
no idea.
condition the gun was in on October 21st, 2021,
Yep.
when it was being used on the Rust
See,
set by Mr.
exactly.
Baldwin. Is that correct?
Correct.
And before the gun was sent to the FBI for testing in 2022, you were not asked to inspect the gun. Is that right?
Correct.
And in fact, the Santa Fe sheriff didn't ask you any questions about the gun at that time. Isn't that right?
Correct.
Or at any time,
I never see anyone except today.
even though you personally made it. Is that correct, sir?
Correct.
And so the first time that you had seen the gun since about early 2018 was about 2 months ago. Isn't that right?
I saw the picture of the gun during a preview interview that we got on Zoom in a Zoom meeting.
Someone held up a picture of the gun on a Zoom meeting,
Yeah, this picture probably.
and that was the first time since 2017 you had seen the gun.
Well,
Yes.
of course, I got this picture on my computer, but I never recall that was the one that was sent to everybody else.
And at that point, the gun was already broken. Correct, sir?
It's the first time I see the gun. I may say yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Who's your next witness?
Your Honor, the state calls Justin Neal.
All right.
I know she. I'm just gonna.
I don't think that's a name we've heard before. I could be wrong. I'm not great with names.
Do you
Yeah,
swear affirm under
exactly.
penalty of law that the testimony you'll give in this case will be the truth, the whole
It was
truth, and nothing but the
incredibly
truth?
obvious, and that's exactly what I would
Try
have
to
done
speak
as
up into
well.
the microphone.
It was the right move because, yeah, this guy can only say, yeah, I saw the gun last in 2018.
Did they take the gun?
Next time I saw it, it was already broken.
Okay, I need it. Thank you. May I proceed, Your Honor? Good afternoon, sir. Would you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
Yeah, my name is Justin Neal.
And sir, how are you employed?
I own my own marketing firm.
And what kind of work do you do? What kind of
Marketing guy.
work?
My marketing firm is a very stereotypical ad agency, and we have another leg to our company where we recruit and manage sales reps for our clients.
What kind
Okay,
of
the gun
clients?
was made for a
Primarily
trade show.
outdoors.
Did he
And are you
is he
affiliated?
connected to the trade
with
show that
Pieta
owned the gun?
Firearms?
Yeah.
Yes.
How?
Pieta's
And then it was sold from the trade show
a little
to
bit more.
either someone else or
robust
directly Seth Kenny.
than
It
the
wound up
other
being with Seth
clients
Kenny
I have.
somehow.
I essentially handle North America for them as it pertains to sales and marketing. And I also handle EMF, which they are part of, as their sales and marketing.
What?
Okay, so
what
we
is
may get the
EMF?
entire history
Early
of this
Modern
gun.
Firearms is an importer, and it's based out of Santa Ana,
If
California.
they are indeed going
They
to
have
call every
been,
single person
in business
that
for
at some point
65 plus
owned or
years,
possessed this
and
gun.
Very much back in the day, they used to supply a lot of firearms, Pieta and otherwise, to Hollywood.
Who owns EMF at this time?
Alessandro and Alberto Pieta.
And how long have they owned EMF?
I believe 2017.
And what exactly is it that you do for EMF?
I handle, again, the sales of the guns that they have of Pieta's. EMF only imports and distributes meaning sells to retailers Pieta Firearms. So I handle the sales of Pieta Firearms through EMF through distribution.
Are you required to have a federal firearms license?
I am.
And why is that?
I am an RP on the FFL for EMF. There has to be two responsible parties, and the Pieta family or the Pietas entrusted in me to be one of the RPs on that FFL.
And RP is what?
Responsible party.
Yeah, I
And what is
noticed
the
Stephen
responsible party?
Baldwin's hair. He's
The responsible party is responsible for.
Yeah, he often wears it like
the
that.
Distribution, the importing of the firearms, and all the paperwork thereof.
So as the responsible party for EMF, are you also required to be aware of what transactions take place, what firearms are sold by EMF?
Yes.
Are you familiar with how EMF maintains its records of sales?
Yes.
In September of 2021, do you recall a transaction between EMF and a company called PDQ Arms and Prop?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you recall that?
I recall that because I saw the actual sales record or the shipping invoice and the packing slip.
I'm going to show you, well, let me ask you this. How did PDQ contact you, or how is it that you guys learned that PDQ needed to purchase arms?
Yeah, they contacted EMF.
Okay. And what was the request for?
The request was for firearms that he saw on the website. EMF obviously has a website, and he wanted some revolvers. And at that time, 2021 was the heart of the pandemic, and Pieta and every manufacturer, gun manufacturer, was back ordered. So we didn't have any. The lady in which he talked to initially said, we do have display guns that we show at trade shows. And so we didn't offer, we said we had those guns.
Let me show you what's been marked as States Exhibit 52.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
No objection.
Was that the OJ trial?
Your Honor, the state would move into evidence 52.
It might have been.
I'm going to show you, well, before you is States Exhibit 52. Do you recognize that?
Oh,
don't
Kyle
think it
Rittenhouse,
What is it?
maybe.
It is a Pieta single action revolver.
And how do you recognize that is a Pieta single action revolver?
Because that was a display gun that we had at
Okay,
some
so
of the trade
yes,
shows in
possibly
which
the
I
prosecution is
attended
going to
and
call
I
every
monitored.
person who
I'm
has
going to
had
show
possession
you
of this
what's
gun
been admitted as States Exhibit 6
and have them all testify that they did not modify it.
Okay.
I mean, if the defense's whole case is that the gun is defective, then yes, that's a good strategy, but I haven't seen the defense lean that way yet. I mean, they didn't go after the manufacturer guy. They just, rightly so, pointed out that he didn't know what had happened to the gun after it left his possession. And apparently came into the hands of this man. Yeah, those gloves are not easy to get on if you're not practiced at it. Watch the bloopers of any medical show. You will see, like, usually a solid couple of minutes of
Do you
actors
recognize
trying to
States
put
Exhibit
gloves
6?
on
Yeah.
and failing.
It is the same gun that's shown on screen, a Pieta single action revolver.
So it's the same gun as depicted on 52? States Exhibit 52.
Yes.
And tell me, was this one of the guns that was sold to PDQ?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as states. Keep that in front of you because I may ask you some additional questions. If you can just close the
Okay.
box, but I will ask you some additional questions. Let me show you what's been marked as States Exhibit 53.
No objection.
Would move into evidence States Exhibit 53.
States 53 is admitted.
Mr. Neal, do you recognize what's in front of you as States Exhibit 53?
Yes,
What is it?
it is a shipping report, and that is shipping invoice
From whom to whom?
from EMF to PDQ.
And when was that?
It was in 21, order date 9/29/21.
So on September 29, 2021, were these firearms that are listed on this invoice shipped to PDQ?
Yes,
And
I'm surprised the gun was only
is
about $500
Exhibit
from the
6
look
that's
of
in
it.
front of you, one of those firearms that's on this invoice.
yes.
Which one is it? You can actually touch the screen and it'll mark.
Oh, well. Okay. I'd have to see the serial number.
Okay, so
On the
if you want
gun.
to look at the serial number of the gun in Exhibit 6. Actually, if you want to open it and you can check the serial number.
Yeah. It's,
Hello.
Good afternoon or good evening, everybody.
And I'm making might be your phone.
It's the third one.
You're a little bit loud.
It's the third one.
So
Hold on.
E5227.
this one right here.
Yes.
So the number 3, the third gun on the invoice is Exhibit 6.
Yes.
Now let me ask you, when did you become affiliated with EMF?
I think I can turn your mic down from here.
And do you recall approximately was the beginning, mid, end of 2018?
And
When you became affiliated with EMF, did EMF already have Exhibit 6 in its inventory?
yes.
Okay, try that.
And did this
Hello.
Exhibit
That's
6
better.
remain with
Thank
EMF
you.
from the time that you were with them?
All right.
September 29, 2021?
Yes.
And what did EMF use Exhibit 6, this particular gun, for?
To display at primarily industry trade shows, business to business shows, B2B shows.
So it was owned by the company the entire time?
Yes.
Did EMF do any work on this gun?
No.
Did EMF inspect it for quality assurance purposes?
Before each show, functionality. It wasn't. They didn't take apart the gun or anything, just to make sure it functioned properly, and then they would put it in what we call a sock, which is basically a soft case.
And when you say functionality, what does that mean?
That the gun works properly. Not
Really,
fired,
like,
never fired, just the 4 traditional click of a Colt firearm.
Yeah.
And the trigger worked properly.
You missed the crime scene tech from yesterday being on the stand until about 20 minutes ago.
oh, dang.
It was endless.
Oh, God. That must have been fun.
Oh, both sides were
What
complete
condition was it in when it
jag-offs.
was sold to you on September 29,
Of course.
Like,
2021?
the judge has
It
to
was
be ready
in
for a vacation already.
Perfect condition.
Yeah.
And this is the judge's second go round with this trial.
You said that how often
She
boy.
provided over
was
the
this
Hannah
gun
Gutierrez
checked,
Reed trial.
for
Mhm.
functionality while it was owned by EMF?
We do approximately 5 shows a year, and so at least
Why is this necessary? Like,
Because
When you say
they're
5 shows, does
anticipating the
that mean
defense
is
is
it
going to
on in a display
argue that the gun
case,
was
or-
it
either
is in a locked
defective
glass display.
from the
Or
factory
modified.
or that it
So
was
people
modified.
can't
So
just
they're
come and
literally
grab it?
They
covering
can't
every
grab it,
inch
no.
of the
Mm.
history of the gun.
CYA.
Yeah,
Well, let
they
me ask
started
you
with
this,
the factory, and the factory guy
before we
said when
move
it
on
left
to the
here, it
next
was in perfect
topic.
working condition, except it didn't have a firing pin. We sold it to
When
this
this
company. So this
gun
guy's
was
here from
shipped
that
to
company
PDQ,
saying
do
when
you
we
know
had
when
it,
was shipped in?
That
it
was
was in
fine.
perfect working
Yeah,
condition. We had it for this
EMF
long, and then we
Mhm.
sold it to
their
this person, and
operating
then that person will be
procedures
the next
that they do
witness.
for any gun ship.
So
Oh
this is
my
leading up
God.
to Seth.
They
This is
thought
leading up
the
to Seth
distributor
Kenny, and the
influenced
defense
Mm.
is going to try and have
then
him for lunch, which I was
he had to
expecting
makes
Hannah's
certified
defense to
EMF
do, and they
into
utterly failed
very
to.
hard styrofoam
Which
box.
So
I guess
I may
It's
finally get to
elected,
see him roasted the way he
and
deserves.
It's
Mm.
placed in there. then
now the armor.
it
Oh, sorry.
that fit
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
to it, and then another
Well, I
Trust
just
me,
don't want to.
this guy is not
box
saying
goes
anything we
inside
need to
goes
hear.
onto that
Okay,
seal,
so
and then
was it the armor that was shot?
another shipping
No,
box
it was the
with
cinematographer
whatever
that,
other guns or
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah.
and the director.
person
Ah,
for
now who?
Is the,
So
the bullet went
Was that
through
in
her
the-
into
the
him.
manner in which
oh
it was
Jesus!
executed?
yes.
So who's the Gutierrez Reed?
She was the armor on set. She was responsible
Oh,
for gun safety on
I
the set.
handle
She's
quite a
the
bit
one
of
who
the
loaded
customer
it,
service calls, yes. Not all,
Jesus.
but a lot.
and then either handed it to the first AD, David Halls, or handed it directly to Baldwin and told him that
over
it
the
was a
years,
cold gun,
since we have-
meaning
Yeah,
that it
and
only had
I
dummy
understand.
non-firing rounds,
I understand that.
and then it had a live
Cold
bullet.
versus
So
hot.
her
Yeah.
responsibility.
Have you ever received a complaint or a
Got
call,
it.
that
That's
a
why she's in
vehicle
jail
was
for 18 months.
going off by itself?
Never.
Are you familiar with
Should
how
be
this
more, but hey,
That's
uh,
the maximum
fires?
in the state for involuntary
Am I familiar with how
manslaughter.
it fires?
yeah.
Yes.
Does it fire without a pull of the trigger?
No.
Yeah, and they want everyone involved to say this. That this type of gun doesn't fire without the trigger being pulled, because Baldwin maintains he never pulled the trigger.
Yeah, like that makes no sense. It just went off.
I don't believe it just went off. But
Yeah, that's
given
what
how
I'm saying.
insanely light the trigger on it
If
was,
this particular gun, exhibit
wouldn't have
6,
taken
if it had
much.
displayed any
But
defects
the
in
thing is, I think
functionality,
also that
would it have been trade shows?
No.
it was.
The purpose of
I have to choose my words carefully now.
EDGA or EMF going to a trade show is to sell
It may have been an accident, but it was extremely careless on Baldwin's part not to
yes,
sporting goods stores.
just
if
to be
and
goofing
if
around with a
buyer
freaking gun.
wanted to
Yeah,
specifically
Like even I
And-
know, like
bring
you,
up
you never ever point a gun at somebody. Come on.
under our
yeah, and there's
watchful
multiple
eye,
videos of
of course,
him
and
being
if
very
that's
unsafe,
effective, you probably not buy that gun
which
or
is
any
Yeah.
not
we have.
going to help him, and the
So
defense is
would it be fair
absolutely
to
going
say
to
you
play every
put out
single one of them.
The best. that
Or
the
the
best
prosecution?
has to offer?
Absolutely.
Prosecution, yeah.
No, I
Sorry.
knew what you meant. It's
Long,
okay.
long day. It's been a long day, and there's a puppy.
I'm sure.
Come here.
No.
Here he comes. Yes.
No.
'Cause I'm talking to people, and that's not allowed.
Mm-mm.
Thank you,
Oh.
Mr. Neal. I have no
You should be
got-
on trial for talking
got-
to people.
He got left alone. He got left alone, and there were
Oh.
people on the balcony while he was all alone.
Next witness.
Oh no.
Oh, no questions from the defense. I'm not surprised because, again, the defense made their point. The gun was outside of these guys' control for several years.
True. True.
So they don't know what happened after that.
Yeah. Oh. Just looks so smarmy like his brother.
Oh, yes, he absolutely does. Yeah,
They're
No,
freaking frack.
they're very like similar.
Oof.
Oh, come here, you fat little puppy.
No.
Somebody finally started eating his kibble again, like a good boy.
Mm.
Oh, I want to see if you notice something. Since they're talking, let me bring myself up for a sec. Notice the background?
Yes. In Dog We Trust.
Yes, in Dog We Trust.
Fantastic.
Yes, I
That is
changed it
fantastic.
myself. Yes, in this courtroom.
How did you do that?
I just opened it in Paint. I selected part of the wood pattern, the lower part, and I
Mhm.
put the wood pattern over the word God, and then just put a text box over that. And I used the eyedropper tool to get the color.
Well,
and
couldn't
then
you
I found
just,
a font
like,
that was
switch the
similar.
letters? Like
I-
just
Oh yeah, I could have just Yeah, I could have done that. That also works. But
I mean,
I
keep
did
it simple,
that way.
stupid, right?
Yes.
And not saying you're stupid, but
Yeah, I could have done that, but
yeah,
no,
just I mean, it's just an outside. You never would have thought of that, but Yeah, well.
No. But yes, in this courtroom in Dog, we trust. Okay. Somebody on Baldwin's team tell him to stop crossing your arms and stop slouching. Sit up. Look like you are paying respect to the situation.
Like, sheesh.
Do not look arrogant. Juries don't like it.
I mean, how can he not? He is a arrogant prick.
He is, yeah, like he's well known to be a
Total
massive, yeah. He's known for being very difficult to work with and a huge egomaniac.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we have. Oh, I remember her.
Do you swear affirm
Yep,
under
she have
penalty
the
of law that the
tattoos that we
testimony
were
you
trying to
give
figure
is
out what her
the truth, the
tattoos
whole truth,
said.
and nothing but the truth? All right,
Because
thank
it's
you.
something I go.
What the?
You were thinking boldly I go, probably.
Maybe she's a Star Trek fan.
State your name
Maybe.
for the record, even though I know it.
Alexandria Hancock.
And how are you currently employed?
I am a corporal with the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office.
And how long have you been with the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Department?
It will be 7 years in November.
And how did you become involved with this case?
In 2021,
Oh, frick.
I was a detective
Sorry.
with
That's
the
okay.
Sheriff's Office. I was assigned to the violent crime.
Your project tonight is to take some cardboard and some tape and make a
On that
proper
day, we
stand.
had
Yeah, I know.
There are plenty of patterns on Google.
at a movie set on the Bonanza Creek.
I'm not kidding, there are.
I know. I know.
You said you were on duty.
There are patterns on how to turn your iPhone into your
And
own
I'm
like
sorry if
like
I-
goggle
if I didn't
box
hear you.
thing where you can like watch a
were you-
movie on it but
what
have
were
it
you at the
strapped to
time?
your
Were you a
head and
corporal?
enclosed
was
so
a
it's like a
detective.
one person theater.
Huh?
And,
It looks
um,
pretty cool actually.
Wow.
Show up to the scene there at Bonanza Creek Ranch?
Yes.
Do you know approximately what time?
I believe it was between 2:30 and 3 p.m.
I believe she was the
And
senior
so,
officer on the
can you
scene.
kind of give the
Ah.
of the jury an idea of what was going on? Were you the only detective on scene? Were there other detectives? What was happening?
Oh, persnickety. Hey.
Originally, it's called a briefing.
This is also a good point. I don't know if maybe that's why the defense has
back
been harping
at
about
our office at the
DNA
sheriff's
on the
office,
hammer when
we,
nobody did
had
DNA
a
tests on
short
it.
briefing with all the
And
detectives
Baldwin
that were
had
there
gloves
that
on
day
and
That
about
is true.
what had been
you know, maybe
learned
they're
thus
trying to
far,
say, yeah, you would have found
um,
somebody else's
as to
DNA
what
on the
occurred
gun
ranch.
because somebody else touched it.
And so
Somebody else intentionally loaded a live
during,
round.
or should I say, after that
I
briefing,
don't know. They keep harping about
the
intent as
detectives
well,
were
so
assigned at that point on who would be handling and who would be assisting. And then from there, the entire team of us went out to the ranch.
So approximately how many people were in the team?
I want to say maybe 5 or 6 of us.
And how does the sheriff's department traditionally is one detective named primary, or are there more than one? How does that work?
Just one is primary, and then typically they will have a secondary, just depending on the case.
I believe she may be in some of the
And how
interrogation
did it work
videos
out
as
with
well,
this
so we may be
case?
getting into that.
Originally with this case,
Because prosecution wanted to play
different detective,
part
James
of
O'Connor,
Baldwin's
was assigned the primary detective,
where he's talking to his
and
family
then
on the
I was
phone.
assigned secondary.
And just so that we're clear, at some point did you become
Bless me. Pardon me.
and at what point
It's a
was
night.
that?
Probably
Thank
at
you.
least a couple weeks later.
Okay. Now, in that interim, in those 2 weeks, were you actively working on the case?
Yeah, I was assisting with it.
And as the assisting detective, did you conduct interviews with witnesses on October 21st?
Yes, I did.
Who did you interview on that day? And then we'll back up.
Okay. On that day, I interviewed Hannah Gutierrez Reed, David Halls, and Alec Baldwin.
So I want to be clear, you as the assisting detective interviewed all three of the people that were ultimately criminally charged.
Yes.
So if you were interviewing all of those, what I'm going to call sort of main players, what was the primary
Ooh, could have chosen your words
Detective Connor
better.
doing?
He was on the day of the incident. He was interviewing the numerous people that needed to be interviewed back at the ranch.
And give us an idea of who those folks were.
That Detective Kano interviewed.
Mhm.
They were people that were said to be inside the church at the time of the incident, or members that assisted with the armor.
Why was it necessary to have two detectives doing interviews at the same time?
Because of
For a lot of
how many
people.
were involved.
Mhm.
Okay. And have you continued to be the primary investigator with the Sheriff's Department on this case since 2 weeks after the incident?
Yes.
Now, when you were dispatched, well, it sounds like you weren't really dispatched, were you?
No.
Who called you in?
My lieutenant at the time, which was Mike Martinez.
And you indicated that you had a briefing.
Yes.
And tell us kind of what information you got at the briefing that you had before you went out to the scene.
Yeah, so during our briefing there at the office, we were told that there was a movie being filmed at Bonanza Creek Ranch, and then sometime during that day, shortly after we were
I'm
called
still
into,
listening,
shortly
just off
before we
cam
were
for a
called into that
second.
briefing,
Yep.
that two people had been shot on the set.
Did you receive information that the shooting had been characterized as an accident?
I do recall reading that on our CAD.
And as a detective with the Sheriff's Department, when you get called to a shooting that's being characterized as an accident, does that mean to you that there will be no criminal charges?
No.
Have you been dispatched or involved in accident investigations in the past that turned into criminal cases? So I just want to be clear. I know that the jury's heard some of this. So you interviewed Hannah Gutierrez, correct?
That's correct.
And what role did she have on the set?
She was the armorer, the main armorer on Rust.
And you also indicated that you interviewed someone named David Halls. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you recall what his role was on the set?
Yes, the guy who was smart enough to take a plea deal.
Mhm.
And then, of course, you interviewed Mr. Baldwin, and we understand that he's an actor, correct?
Correct.
I want to just take you back for a moment. During opening, did you hear the defense attorney say that Sarah Zachary was not interviewed on October 21st?
I did hear that.
Is that correct?
No.
Was Sarah Zachary actually interviewed on October 21st?
She was.
Who interviewed her?
Detective Joel Kano with the assistance of Detective Ray Arndt.
And who was Sarah Zachary?
She was the props master for Rust.
If you would try to explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury the relationship between the prop master and the armorer based on your understanding.
What I understood between the prop master and the armorer, as it pertains to Rust, is that
they're technically two different departments. They have different functions, different roles, do different things. But in the case of Rust, the prop master and the armorer assisted each other because of how what they would describe to be prop heavy this movie was.
And did you get an understanding of when we say prop, exactly what we're talking about?
Yes.
So one of these gun holsters, would that be a prop?
Yes.
Would the guns themselves be props?
Yes.
Even the live gun, the real guns, I'm sorry.
Yes, that's correct.
And the ammunition, would that be considered a prop?
Yes.
Okay. And does that also include glasses and cups and plates and silverware?
Yeah, anything that an actor would use in a scene, excluding like wardrobe items.
Okay. And I understand that you indicated that Ms. Zachary was interviewed on the 21st of October by Detective Cano. Did you also conduct a follow-up interview with Sarah Zachary at a later date?
Yes, I did.
Do you recall approximately when that was?
I believe it was sometime in November.
So just the following month?
Yes.
And you testified that you conducted an interview with Hannah Gutierrez on October 21st. Did you also conduct a follow-up interview with her at a later date?
Yes, I did.
And approximately when was that, if you recall?
I want to say that was in November as well.
And you interviewed Mr. Baldwin on the 21st, correct?
Yes.
And did you have subsequent contact with Mr. Baldwin after the interview that you did on October 21st?
Yes, I did.
And how were you having contact with him? Was he in New Mexico, or how was that happening?
No, he wasn't in New Mexico at that point, but I would receive phone calls and sometimes text messages.
From Mr. Baldwin?
Yes.
Generally speaking, was it Mr. Baldwin reaching out to you or you reaching out to him?
It was him reaching out to me.
So he had your cell phone number?
Yes, my department cell.
And just to be clear, do the defense attorneys also have your contact information?
They do.
Have they sent you text messages?
I don't know exactly her title, but members from their team, yes.
Okay, so they actually have your cell phone number.
Yes.
And you've made yourself available to them.
That's correct.
And you do that whether I'm
Feels
there
like
or
she's
not,
trying to
right?
get ahead of
Yes.
something.
Mm-hmm.
With regard to your November interview with Ms. Gutierrez, did you have a conversation with Ms. Gutierrez about who loaded the gun?
I did.
And what did Ms. Gutierrez say?
That she loaded the gun herself.
And did you have a conversation with Ms. Gutierrez concerning the box of ammunition that was holding that one suspected live round?
I did.
And what did Ms. Gutierrez say?
That it would be a box that she would have provided.
Objection, hearsay, unless this is information accurate.
So, my response, unless you want us to approach, is that these are statements against interest and they come in under that exception.
It took you a while to find. You could
Well, I
have
was
just
trying
asked me to send you the picture.
That they are, but like I said,
You're right. Keep it simple, stupid. Bob.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Did you have conversation? Let me ask you. Ms. Gutierrez indicated that she brought that box of ammunition on the set. Is that right?
That it was similar to one that she would have provided.
During that interview, did she produce a photograph for you?
She did.
And the photograph that she produced, did she tell you where she got it?
I don't know if she said in that interview exactly where she got it, but she did describe it to be a box like that was in the photo would be what she provided.
And the photograph that she showed you during the interview, did it match exactly the label on the box that contained the live ammunition?
The hell?
Something of yours
As you
is
sit
rubbing
here
on your mic.
today,
Oh,
do you have any question about
Hmm.
who introduced the live ammunition to the set of Rust?
No,
Who do you believe it was based on your investigation?
Hannah.
Okay.
oh.
I don't recall her saying it exactly that way at
Did
Hannah's
you
trial.
have conversations
Hmm.
with Ms.
I don't
Gutierrez
recall a definitive statement
about
like that.
her
Mm-hmm.
firearms training?
The one that she conducted?
Yes,
or
specifically-
her own
specific-
experience?
No. That's what I think we should approach.
Oh.
Yeah, he's got a point because
go
why
ahead.
is,
Yeah.
she's asking her, what did Hannah say to you? And it's like, no, you need to ask Hannah
Like,
that.
oh. Yeah.
Which, I don't know. I was questioning before whether Hannah would testify. Or
Yeah,
whether
true.
not whether one or the other side would find benefit in calling her, because I could see it both ways, but whether she would actually do it.
Yeah. Whether
Like,
it would
is
kind
it
of
beneficial to her?
Yeah.
Because she's already in jail pending appeal. She's been in jail for several months,
Mm-hmm.
but she's not looking at that much time.
Yeah.
She's only
But then
got
again-
18 months, and with good behavior, she could probably be out in a year or less.
Yeah. The problem could she be liable
can't-
for it?
Civilly, yes, there are still
Okay.
civil trials ongoing.
Okay.
But she cannot be charged any further criminally.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking. Like,
Yeah, no, criminally
so
she's
got-
not at risk
yeah.
unless she thinks she has a chance of getting the verdict overturned and her conviction expunged,
Mhm.
which is like there is no chance
Like-
of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only reason I would say that she wouldn't want to get on the stand, because they will make her say, like, you have been convicted for the involuntary manslaughter of Helena Hutchins. The
Mhm.
court found you guilty, that you were responsible. Because that's what defense would rip her apart with that. They said you were responsible. It was your fault. Nobody said it was Alec Baldwin except the prosecution, because she wants to hang a celebrity on her wall. But it's your fault, isn't it, Hannah? It's you. And if he can make her cry, he's won.
Mm-hmm. What I would give to be a fly on the wall behind the judge.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You conducted an interview with Mr. Baldwin, is that correct?
Yes.
And did you learn during that interview whether or not Mr. Baldwin received any training regarding the use of these firearms?
Yeah, he had mentioned that he did a training session.
Training session.
With
Where he was on his
with
cell
Hannah,
phone.
which was the
and not
armor,
paying
and then I believe he
attention.
said Sarah and their assistant Nicole was there.
Okay.
I
And did you interview Seth Kinney?
I'm sorry. I just
How
that
many times?
really irritates me
I don't know if I could.
that he's on his fucking cell phone.
While he's supposed to be doing gun training, yeah.
Yeah, even I would put my phone
Was
the
Mr. Kinney
fuck
cooperating?
down and be like, all right, what do we got to do? Focus. Like,
Yes.
Well,
What search
here's
warrants
the
did
thing
you-
that'll really steam you. When they resumed
I
filming,
had drafted
because
the
they did
search
finish the
warrant
movie
for the
about a year later.
prop truck,
They went
as
back, they
well
finished it.
as the search warrant for PD.
And when they did so, they were under heavy safety scrutiny,
And
obviously.
PDQ, is that Mr. Kenny's
Mhm.
business?
Yes.
There were safety people
Um,
on
Let
set
me
who had
ask you,
absolute
have
and
you ever
total
worked on a
authority,
movie set before?
No.
except over
And
Alec
have you ever
Baldwin,
investigated a crime on a movie
who
set
insisted
before?
that he not be held to any safety standards and not be
On
required
October
to attend
25th,
safety meetings,
2021,
and that he not be
do you
under the
know what a
authority
prop
of the
truck
safety
was?
coordinators on set.
No.
Of course.
At some
Oh
point,
my God. I hope they
you learn what a prop truck was?
Yes.
I fucking hope they
And-
hang him from the highest rafter,
It
honestly.
was an area that was used.
That arrogance is
Yeah,
oh, that
that's what it is.
you know what?
This particular prop truck?
Yeah.
It was actually multiple departments that were using it. I don't know exactly which ones, but the armor and the props department had approximately half of like the back of the truck.
And I think we heard previous testimony from Ms. Popple that the search of the prop truck didn't happen until the 27th of October, I think?
Yes.
Is that right? What was the delay?
Well, I was not the case agent at that time, and so I really wasn't the one in charge of the investigation. And so what happened?
That's not good.
Agent is
No.
they kind of
That's definitely trying to get ahead of the
the
defense.
information that they have and what we need to get.
What was one of the first things that you did when you became the primary on this case?
Started reviewing a lot of information.
How long after you became primary did you request a warrant for the prop truck?
So I wasn't the primary at the time that I requested that warrant. I was assisting, and so I'm in between the day that the incident occurred, which was the 21st, and then the day that the search warrant was, I think, applied and executed for was the 27th. So 6 days.
And was the prop truck secured during that time?
Through my interviews, I found out that it was secured.
Oh, thank God.
So
Well,
the set,
it wasn't. People were allowed in to get their stuff.
one of the
God.
individuals that worked on the set of Rust.
Objection, hearsay. Being distracted. But she knew it at the time.
This is information that she learned during her investigation.
But afterwards, it has nothing to do with.
When
He's
did
got a
you- when did-
point.
Ask her when
Yeah.
you get that date.
In terms of when she learned? When did you learn? Let me ask you this. When you showed up on the 27th of October, did anyone meet you at the prop truck?
Yes, and then we also had deputies that went out there at least a couple days before we had drafted that search warrant to secure the truck with 24-hour surveillance.
So when you went to the prop truck on the 27th, did someone have to meet you there to open it?
Yes.
Who had to meet you there to open it?
Her name was Ro Walters.
Okay. So on that day, did you understand that it was locked?
Yeah, inaccessible.
Okay, because she had to open it for you.
Correct.
And other than props generally, tell us what other things were stored inside that truck.
There was a firearm safe with firearms in it. There were firearms outside of that safe. I think there were like a bunch of chairs in it and
Oh my.
like shade tents and stuff like that. There was quite a bit of stuff.
After you were let into the prop truck and it was unlocked for you, describe for us the safe. How big is it?
Maybe about 4 feet tall and maybe about a foot wide.
And did someone have to come and unlock that safe for you?
Yes.
Who was that?
Seth Kenny.
Of course.
Yeah, I think we're really
And
going to
when
see
you
the defense get their
executed
teeth out on
the
him.
Warrant on the prop truck,
Mhm.
as it relates to this case, just summarize for us what you found. I mean, you know, we don't care about tables and chairs and stuff.
Additional firearms, more ammunition. I think that was kind of the major things that we got off of it.
And are you familiar with the ammunition that was provided to the set of Rust by Seth Kenny?
Yes.
Where was that ammunition found?
Inside of the prop truck in a bag.
And when you say in a bag, was it inside something else?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding.
Was it just loose in a bag?
Well, it was inside of a box that was inside a duffel bag type thing.
Okay. And the, is it also, were you able, did you locate a black gun belt?
I don't think I was the one that located that.
Okay, all right, no problem. And we understand that you also executed a search warrant on PDQ, is that right?
That's correct.
And that was on November 30th, I think we heard?
Yes.
So prior to executing that search warrant, had Seth Kenny talked to you about live rounds?
I don't, yes, I believe so.
Do you recall, did Seth Kenny at some point bring live rounds to you?
He did.
Do you know whether that was before you searched PDQ?
It was before.
So you knew before you searched PDQ that he had live rounds because he took them and told you.
Yes.
Did you receive information prior to the search at PDQ regarding a green ammo can?
I did.
Who did you receive that information from?
From Thel Reed, which was Hannah's father.
In part, was it based on the information from Hannah's father that you executed the search warrant on PDQ?
Yeah, the information I learned from him was some of what I used.
And just to be clear, I want to be clear, the reason that you went and searched PDQ, one of the reasons is because Mr. Reed said Seth Kenny's got live ammunition, right?
Yeah, he did say that. He actually said that he was the one that picked up that live ammunition.
Who was?
Thel.
Thel picked it up.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Corporal, did it occur to you that Thel Reed may be giving you inaccurate information to protect his daughter? What?
Unless we're going to be able to ask witnesses.
It's a fair question.
Continue.
I'm just asking you, I'm not asking about anybody else. Did it occur to you when you took the information from Mr. Reed and got the search warrant, did you know who to believe at that point in time?
No.
Okay.
I'm surprised the defense wouldn't
And I
have
wanna be
objected.
clear, did Mr. Reed, and this is just because of, this is just why you did what you did Mr. Reed indicate to you that the ammunition at PDQ he thought was the same ammunition on the set of Rust?
Yes.
Oh,
Did
is that on your end?
true?
What?
No.
That.
I didn't hear anything.
That sounded like, I don't know, something
No.
blowing on your mic.
Let me ask you this. the
Oh,
live
it might have been.
ammunition that
Oh, I have a
was
fan
collected
behind
at
me. It might have.
PDQ,
Okay,
did
yeah.
it look
And that's
dissimilar
probably what it
to
would have
live
been.
ammunition from
Mhm.
Rust?
Yes.
Maybe a slight
No,
noise moving
it
something.
looked dissimilar.
No worries.
It shouldn't
Did you
screw
send
anything
it
up.
to the FBI for testing?
Mm-hmm.
At least that's the hope.
Yeah.
Oh, why are my wires always tangled, flipping messes?
Don't worry, it happens.
Did you ever discover any evidence throughout your entire investigation that Seth Kinney supplied live rounds to the set of breasts?
No.
What kind of an idiot would
Did you ever
freaking-
discover any evidence that Seth Kinney was present on the set of Rust until you met him at the prop truck?
No.
During your investigation, did you ever discover any evidence that Mr. Kinney modified or altered the gun that was provided to Mr. Baldwin?
No.
Did you ever discover any evidence that Ms. Gutierrez modified or altered the gun that was provided to Mr. Baldwin?
No.
Did you ever formally arrest Ms. Gutierrez?
No.
Does that have anything to do with whether or not she was ultimately convicted of a crime?
No.
Did you ever arrest Dave Halls?
No.
Do you know whether or not he was convicted of a crime at some point?
Yes, he was.
And the fact that you arrested him or didn't arrest him, did that have anything to do with it?
No.
As a law enforcement officer, do you always arrest people who then later are criminally charged?
Sorry, you mean like arrest them right away? And
Do they
then...
have to be arrested in order to be criminally charged?
No.
Why would you not arrest someone?
To develop the investigation, if we're still waiting or investigating facts, trying to find information, and to get potential suspects or witnesses, whoever is involved, to cooperate with law enforcement.
Who makes the final charging decision in a criminal case?
Well, that would be the
The district attorney's office.
attorney.
The prosecutor does, right?
Yes.
You guys don't. The law enforcement officers don't, correct?
No, they
Right.
don't.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in addition to searching the prop truck and searching PDQ, did you
The
also
people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups.
And
Yes.
whose
The police,
cell phones
which investigates crime, and the district attorney, which prosecutes the offenders.
I
This is their story.
requested
Dum dum.
Alec Baldwin,
I had to get that in there.
Of course.
David Halls, and Sarah Zachary.
God, that makes me think of that that sovereign citizen, David Hall.
cell phone extraction.
I know. I kept thinking it too.
Not that long ago, he was arrested again.
Why am I not surprised?
You get to see
He was on like this little, I don't know, scooter thing or something.
Oh yeah, I saw it. I
when you
saw it.
reviewed the photo
Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious.
of Gutierrez's cell phone. Did you notice anything that stood out to you?
I did.
What was that?
There was a photograph taken, I believe it was maybe end of November, that she was there was two bullets, 2 rounds, and I believe her hand, and it caused a little bit of concern. And then I think I actually had found a couple photos of it, and one of the bullets in that photograph was circled, kind of how you can edit a picture, and it said, I believe it was Dud on top of it.
That
Oh.
bullet that was circled that said Dud on it, was it a Starline brass casing?
It was.
Did it have a nickel primer?
Yes.
Oh my God, Baldwin, you
Virtual,
idiot.
Just in terms of the color.
Yes.
Look at him.
And in terms of the
Oh, I know.
projectile
He's not
shape,
doing himself any
it
favors with
matched
the
live
attitude.
rounds from the cell
I
phone.
know.
It did.
What a prick.
And the thing is, like, I have to imagine he's been told,
Judy, I want
especially
you,
after
instead of 8:30, I want you to
yesterday.
be here at 9:30
Oh, we're ending for
Mhm.
today.
downstairs. Please
Yeah.
don't look among yourselves or anyone else.
And
about
we're
the
starting an
evidence you
hour
see
late
here in court.
tomorrow.
Thank you.
Jeez.
Okay, so that was abrupt.
Yeah. Hmm.
Wait, I missed the exact moment. Did she actually pass the witness or
Um,
because defense I can imagine is going to be
and I want to be
lengthy.
clear, did Miss
Mhm.
So that could be given that
modified or
it is like
altered
10 to 5
the
there. So
gun that
yeah,
was
they're done
provided
for the
to Mr.
day.
Baldwin?
Yeah.
But did
Did
she
you ever-
actually
The bullets in that photograph.
Bullet, was it a just match?
Yes.
Okay, did
and
she
in
say
terms
she
of
was
the
finished or
projectile
did the judge
shape,
just cut her off?
Did it match the live rounds from the set of rust?
It did.
Yeah, the judge just cut her off.
Yeah.
You, instead
Jeez.
of 8:30, I want you to be
Okay.
here at 9.
So the judge cut her off. Apparently, judge saw that it was 10 off 5 and she was like, all right, we out.
We gotta
I'm
go."
done. I've had enough of both of you. I need
Yeah.
a very large martini.
Yeah, I would
Like,
too.
they-
And I
they
don't
had
even
a-
drink.
They had like a 45-minute sidebar.
Jeez.
Yeah, pretty much literally the entire morning was like sidebars. I think they asked like 3 whole questions because it was constant sidebars and they were lengthy. And then they took
Oh
a
my
2-hour lunch so that a witness could review body cam footage. And they had lunch for an hour and then they spent the other hour re-arguing motions that had already been adjudicated. So the judge is having to go over it
Oh.
again and looked like she was ready to snap on both of them.
Hmm.
So then they were late starting in the afternoon. They continued with the crime scene tech for most of the afternoon and then got through these 2 witnesses very quickly. Well,
Now we're
halfway
done.
through her. No, the prosecution's not done with her yet.
Oh yes. Sorry, that's right. Not even.
So she'll be back tomorrow. I'm very
Jeez.
concerned about their ability to keep this trial within the number of days. The judge made it very clear is all they're getting
Mm-hmm.
because these delays come out of their time. They don't get extra time because they're
No.
arguing with each other.
Yeah.
So I'm really concerned that they are just, I don't know. I mean, granted, defense
Mhm.
seems to be taking the approach of rather than let the state have its case and then like present your entire case after them, they seem to be doing a parallel approach where I'd imagine I can easily see prosecution saying like prosecution rests followed by defense rests because
Yeah,
they're
like you
making
see
their
in
case
Law
at
and
the
Order,
same
like
time.
that kind of like
Yeah, it's the 2 strategies of trial. Do I go after them or do I go at the same time as them? They're
Mhm.
clearly doing the same time.
Interesting.
So they might have 1 or 2 witnesses, but I can't imagine they could go with the ultimate strategy of Baldwin is the only witness for the defense.
Yeah, it's true.
It's gutsy.
Yeah, really ballsy, but
But
I
you
mean,
know there's
I
no
mean-
way he's not taking the stand in his own defense.
yeah.
He's way too
The-
egotistical and arrogant.
The problem is the problem they have is they have to absolutely be able to rein him in, which I extremely doubt they'd be able to. He's just gonna run his mouth. He's gonna, he'll be
Yes.
doing this. He needs to be doing that.
Yes, it's gonna be like the Stephanopoulos interview where he's gonna be like, I'm really the victim. I'm this and that. I feel
Oh.
so bad about it. I couldn't sleep. It's gonna be a lot of I
couldn't sleep.
statements.
There's a fucking lady in the ground because of your arrogance and stupidity. How are
Yeah.
you the fucking victim, you asshat?
Oh yeah. No, and then
Fuck you, Alec Baldwin.
like, and this is partly why the defense very much wanted to be able to argue his liability, not just as an actor, but as a producer as well, because he was the most powerful person on set. He was responsible. He was involved in the hiring of what he knew to be an inexperienced armorer. He was the one, saying we got to rush everything. We don't have time to lock up the guns between takes. It takes too much time to get them in and out.
Oh my god.
We gotta keep going. We
You
gotta
are-
do this many shots per day, even though that's too many, and we don't have time to turn it around safely. And and he's seen like being a jerk with the gun on set, including one time where they were filming, he was firing blanks, so they go pop with little dust effects.
Yeah.
And the director called cut, and he fired it again. And somebody called him a motherfucker.
Yeah, I would too.
Like, scared them because they weren't expecting it.
Yeah, I would too. I call him a motherfucking dumbass idiot.
Yeah. No, and so there was that.
To
and
his
there's
face. I don't care how powerful or
and
rich or famous you are. You do a
they
stupid thing, I'm
probably-
going to call you out.
Oh yeah, but nobody was going to do that because he was the entire production, more or less. This was a passion project of his. So he's not only the lead actor, he's the lead producer. He's got all the power. He's
Lead
the one.
douchebag.
Yeah, he's the one paying. He's the one signing everybody's paychecks, as it were. Though I point out that was apparently not enough because they did have all of the union members walk that day over their conditions and over safety.
Wow.
Yes, I remind. I remind our viewing audience, for anyone that has missed this somehow, that prior to Helena Hutchins being killed and Sousa being shot, there was an accidental misfire on set of a gun going off when it was not supposed to. They had a pyrotechnics explosion go off when it was not supposed to. They then had a second gun misfire where it went off when it wasn't supposed to. These 3 things happened and nothing was done about it. They never shut down
Of course.
They never determined how it happened. They never took steps to make sure it wouldn't happen. And all of those 3 things, yeah, but whose feet did that land at? David Hall's, because he was the set safety coordinator. He had the legal responsibility, which is why I say he's the luckiest SOB in the world, that he took months plea deal for unsupervised probation, because I could have seen him getting more time than anyone else because he the most liable. He was the on-set safety coordinator who was responsible for safety on set, and a witness testified that he spoke to David Halls directly and told him after either the first or second misfire, you need to fire Hannah Gutierrez Reed. She's not safe.
You know what?
And Halls did nothing.
Helena Hutchins, is that?
That was her name, yeah.
Yeah.
Who died.
You know what? It seems to me that it was an eventuality. It's not an if, but when someone died.
That is what a lot of people are saying, that the set was so unsafe that it was begging for something horrible to happen, and they had warning sign after warning sign after warning sign, and they did nothing. And like, there are emails in a slight defense of Hannah Gutierrez Reed, not that I defend her, but she has emails because she was hired to do 2 jobs. This is part of the problem. She was only supposed to be their armorer for 8 days. After that, she was listed as a props assistant. However, on days when she was listed as props assistant, they were still expecting her to do armorer duties and handle the guns. So they had no listed armorer on some days. So you have a props assistant now handling the guns. And she was saying to them, I can't do both. You're telling me to do 2 jobs, because she's getting emails yelling at her saying, you're spending too much time with the guns, not enough time helping with props. I need your help on props. And so she was being told to like rush it with the guns. She was told, don't lock them up between takes. It takes too long to get them in and out. You know, she was told just you can hear Alec after a couple of takes shouting at her and shouting at someone else. Because he hands them the gun and he's like, reload, we got to keep going. Come on, reload, let's go. So he's shouting and rushing. Fuck. And yeah, she has email basically saying, you're asking me to do 2 jobs at once. I can't do 2 things at once. You're not giving me enough time. What do I do? And she got told, focus on the props.
Oh, all right.
So that's going to do it for today. We are back, looks like an hour late tomorrow, probably because they've got more motions and exhibits to argue about. So the judge is just like getting ahead of it. She's like, okay, I'm giving you an hour to yell at each other in the morning, and then we're getting started.
Yeah.
She's going to be like, the judge has got to be the biggest TGIF person tomorrow. Yeah. She's going to be counting the minutes until she can
In
like
seconds.
yes, until she can like be on the couch with some Haagen-Dazs and some Bridgerton.
Yeah. I would
I
be
feel
too if
for
I was
her.
that judge.
And this is
I
only
don't
the
even drink.
beginning.
Once again, I don't even drink. But
Next
I'd
week
be
we've
like,
got
"Ugh, ugh,
the
ugh,
whole
ugh."
week. Yeah, I know, right? So yeah, so that'll be if it's 9:30 there tomorrow. That is 11:30 Eastern. Hey, I can sleep in a little bit.
Oh,
That'll
well.
be nice.
Yeah.
Anyway, everyone, enjoy your evening. Have a good time. Thank you for joining us. We hope you come back tomorrow. Love on a fur
From your
baby.
favorite. Yep. From your
I've been
favorite.
Insane
If you're a
Lane.
friendly neighborhood pool guy, take care.
Yes. Good night, everyone.
Bye.